If you've ever had an uncontrollable urge for Thai food, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, folks, and welcome back to another episode of Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook. It's Tuesday, the news cycle has picked up, and actually we still have some more earnings this week before that data day on Thursday. FedEx earnings tonight, Micron earnings tomorrow, and a sell-off here that appears to be deepening. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about all of that as well as the movers. To break down some of the news. We're going to have some fun and we're going to get some trading done here today. It is a T3 Tuesday as well. Got another T3 guest for you, giving you some targets here today. Happy Tuesday, everybody. Benzinga's Pre-Market Playbook, the Tuesday edition for June 23rd, 2026 starts right now. Good morning and welcome back, folks. I hope that you all had a wonderful rest of your Monday. Look, I know if you were a soccer fan, the Stars came out to play yesterday on U.S. soil. Got a nice brace from Messi, Mbappe, and Haaland yesterday. So great day of soccer. But we're back to the market here today, and we got a bit of a move down. So the $64,000 question is going to be, do we bounce here today? Or is this just one of those weakness days where it's get out of my way and we move to the downside? We're going to break all that down and take a look at the charts. Let's welcome everybody back to start. Derek is first here today. Good morning, everyone, and good morning to you, Derek. Early bird gets the worm. Congrats on being first here today. Francis, good morning. Welcome back. Peter, good morning. Welcome back. Zach McCracken, good morning. Zach letting you know Zeta and Palantir have a press release today. They've got a partnership going on. Zeta is popping off that news. I'm sure we'll talk about that in the movers section. Zach, Crispy Biscuit, it's good to see you all the time. Hopefully it's crispy on the outside, but nice and soft on the inside. Lol. Free Diddy tomorrow. Good morning. Welcome back. Patji, good afternoon. Welcome back. I almost said good morning there, Patji. Almost, but I caught myself. Producer, locked in and ready to go. I absolutely love it. Astro Kev, good morning. Welcome back. Tana, good morning. Welcome back. Linda, it's great to see you again. Welcome back. Carlos, welcome back. Anne Marie, howdy, howdy. Where's my cowboy hat when I need one? Anne Marie, great to have you here. Can't wait to set up some option trades. I hope you are well here today. Lion Atlas, howdy Cowboys. There we go. See, I'm not the only one thinking about a cowboy hat here today. Let's go. Lion, good morning. Welcome back. It's great to see you as always. Kelly, good morning. Welcome back. Bernhard, good morning. Welcome back. Liam, good morning. Welcome back. Back in Germany. Liam, glad to hear that your travels were safe and you're back home now. That's really good stuff. Marionette, good morning. Welcome back. Edro, good to see you again. Dirkus, welcome back. Just passing through, good morning. Acorns, good morning. GB Slice, good morning. Robot to Trade, good morning. Brandy is locked in, good morning. Reaching Financial Freedom, good morning. And Canap, good morning. All right, folks, it's Tuesday. Let's go ahead and get started with our stock market today. Red arrows in mass ahead of Tuesday's open here today. We are lower across the board. S&P futures down 1.17%. The Dow futures down 0.34%. And the NASDAQ down a whopping 2.5%. So Dow, the strongest here today. We'll see if that turns around at any point. I will say that S&P futures and the NASDAQ futures both slightly up off of the lows, but again, under pressure here today. Now, let's take a look at some cues from last session here and see what we got going on today. Most sectors on the S&P 500 closed on a positive note, with energy, real estate, and healthcare stocks recording the biggest gains on Monday. However, consumer discretionary and communication services bucked the overall market trend and closed the session lower. U.S. stock futures declined on Tuesday as the NASDAQ 100, Dow, and S&P 500 indices fell following Monday's mixed close. President Trump warned he will, quote, do what I have to do, end quote, if Tehran fails to stick to a newly negotiated peace roadmap, which initiated a 60-day U.S. waiver on Iranian sanctions, according to Reuters. Trump added that upcoming weapons inspections would enforce, quote, nuclear honesty, end quote. Iranian officials denied that discussions regarding the nuclear program had begun. Yikes. Meanwhile, the 10-year Treasury bond yielded 4.48%. The 2-year bond was at 4.19%. And the CME Group's Fed Watch Tool projections show that the markets are pricing in a 67.9% likelihood of the Federal Reserve leaving the current interest rates unchanged during the upcoming July meeting. Now, we've got several stocks in focus here for you today. The first one is going to be Primoris Services. The ticker is PRIM, P-R-I-M. And it dropped a whopping 33.97% in the pre-market on Tuesday as the company announced the departure of COO Jeremy Kinch and cut its fiscal year 2026 guidance. The next stock on our list is Catheter Precision. The ticker is VTAK, and it surged 43.73% as it filed a prospectus for an offering of 68.07 million shares. The next stock on our list is one of our quantum winners and our quantum stocks from this group here. It's Inflection. The ticker on Inflection is INFQ, and it rose 3.1% after Trump signed 2 executive orders Monday aimed at accelerating quantum computing development and strengthening cybersecurity as Washington intensifies its competition with China in the race for quantum leadership. The next stock on our list is going to be SpaceX. Ticker SPCX fell another 3.68%, and that is continuing a multi-day decline for the popular space company, which listed on June 12th. With Monday's drop, SpaceX has shed over $400 billion in valuation and fallen to the 7th most valuable company in the world with a market cap of around $2.04 trillion with a T. The last stock on our list is going to be FedEx, and it rose 0.25% as analysts expect it to post quarterly earnings of $5.96 per share on revenue of $24.04 billion after the closing bell today. All right, let's take a look at the SPY chart and see where we are. Guess what? The rollover continues. So yesterday we talked about the 20-day really being important. We were unable to close above the 20-day. If you count the wicks, we actually had a bearish engulfing candle yesterday, and it sure looked like the market wants to roll over a little bit more. Now we wake up here, the 50-day moving average is at 730 and a half or 730.43. We're currently sitting at 735. So ideally, what I would like here is an actual test of the 50-day. Remember, the last time this happened, we actually could not get back above the 20. We rolled over the next day. We did not quite test the 50. And then the day after we bounced, and we never ended up testing this. Now, what I would like to see this time is I'd actually like to see a test of this 50-day. Better still, I would love a break of the 50-day and then a very quick recapture, either later today or perhaps tomorrow. That would be ideal for then moving back up and taking out that 20-day moving average. Now, we'll see if FedEx tonight has any impact on the broader feel for the market. I suspect it's going to have less than the Micron earnings tomorrow. And with tech showing some weakness here, it'll be very interesting to see how those Micron earnings set up tomorrow. But looking at the chart here, sure feel like we're going to roll over. This recent high is actually a slightly lower high than the previous one. And so until we can take that out, although it's not very steep, we are currently in a downtrend. I'd love to see here if we could break and recapture the 50. I would also mention that this 725, 724 level right in here, let's call it 724 to 725, that area in there should be the next area of support if 730 and a half indeed falls here today. Now let's take a look at some insights from analysts, excuse me, and see what they think. Then we'll go and break down some of the news here. LPL Financial maintains a cautious, optimistic economic outlook, noting that the broader macro environment is supported by solid underlying fundamentals. In its recent weekly market commentary, the firm highlights that a, quote, steady near-trend growth backdrop supported by investment and productivity gains, end quote, is keeping the economic resilience despite the tight financial conditions. Key structural drivers such as ongoing capital spending and AI-related digital infrastructure and data centers are expected to foster durable, less inflationary long-term expansion. Regarding monetary policy and the stock market, LPL Financial closely monitors the Federal Reserve's evolving strategy under the new FOMC chair, Kevin Warsh. Fed's updated projections, which indicate higher median interest rates, initially triggered a, quote, negative reaction in both the equity and the bond markets, end quote. However, LPL Research maintains the LPL Research Strategic and Tactical Asset Allocation Committee, or STAC, maintains its recommendation for a tactical equity overweight and fixed income underweight. To navigate immediate macroeconomic uncertainties, including fluctuating oil prices caused by Middle East geopolitical tensions, the committee implements a, quote, defensive factor tilt given our expectation for bouts of volatility, end quote. So LPL telling you that they're going to remain constructive, that the underlying fundamentals are still solid and supporting the move that we have, but we're still expecting bouts of volatility. And I really feel like that's what our group kind of feels, at least from taking the temperature of both the morning group and the happy hour group. And Maria, I'd like to know what you think about that. Sounds, at least from trying to remember exactly where it is that you are, it sounds like you're kind of in the same boat. Let me know if I'm correct on that or not. As far as the economic data here, June's flash, U.S. manufacturing and services PMI will be out at 9:45, and that is it for the data here today. Now, I got a couple of different stories here that focus on the broader market. This one here, forget animal spirits. This Wall Street strategist says that the S&P 500 bull run is built entirely on earnings. And as a result, momentum is going to continue. Anne-Marie says, same boat. Yeah, so maybe a little bit different specifics there, but overall the same boat. Okay, good to know. Now, this analyst here saying that the momentum is going to continue. And I know that there are several of you, especially that are trading those momentum names. Lion, looking at you, probably want to hear this. Let's take a look and see what he's got to say. A surge in corporate profits could push the S&P 500 to historic heights, and that is according to JP Morgan Private Bank. The firm's co-lead of global investment strategy, Stephen Parker, argues that achieving an aggressive 8,900 bull case target by the end of the year is entirely realistic because the market's ongoing rally is strictly, quote, earnings driven, end quote, rather than a product or physiological exuberance of unbacked animal spirits, as we hear about. While JP Morgan's baseline projection for the S&P 500 sits at 7,800, a figure that actually implies lower valuation multiples, the march to 8,900 remains firmly on the table. According to Parker, the primary engine behind the market's current momentum is a stellar corporate earnings season that has consistently defied skeptical expectations. Quote, the rally we've seen this year has been entirely earnings driven, end quote. And Parker told that to CNBC. He went on to say, even the most bullish expectations have been consistently exceeded, and we think that earnings momentum is going to continue until the end of the year, end quote. Now, a key catalyst for this growth is the relentless surge in technology spending, particularly capital expenditures that are tied to AI. This trend has created tremendous demand globally, notably driving a 30% rally in emerging markets like Korea and Taiwan, where earnings growth is projected to climb 50%. Quick note here, Korea really took it on the chin last night. That negative or those red arrows really kind of spread to our market as well. I believe the Kospi in Japan was also down. So it looks like it's kind of a global move down here in tech. Crucially, the rally is expanding beyond tech. Analysts expect 8 out of 11 S&P 500 sectors to deliver double-digit earnings growth. Parker noted that seeing this broadening play out is exactly what will propel the market towards the absolute upside of the bull case. While a slowdown in AI capital expenditure or rising energy prices could create some friction, JP Morgan is less concerned about monetary policy tightening. Despite market pricing shifting from 3 cuts to a potential 2 rate hikes, Parker believes equity markets can withstand the pressure. The Federal Reserve is anticipated to remain on hold as lower energy prices begin to cool down inflation. Quick check-in on oil here this morning. We actually are in the red again here today. Oil down about 0.5%. CL currently trading at 73.53 in the pre-market here today. So we got a bull case here, 8,900 on the S&P cash. Who likes this? We just heard that we might also see several bouts of volatility. So who likes the possible move down and then a nice finish to the end of the year here? That would actually be great for swing trading if you're able to hit those. Just going to throw that out there. Now, it's not all roses out there, unfortunately. Tech investor Dan Niles says he is cutting back on his Mag 7 bets despite the massive gains. He flags speed bumps ahead, and he says, quote, what does the September guidance look like? I'm thinking about September too, Dan, but I'm thinking more about the football season, not the earnings in September. So we'll see what he has to say here. Prominent tech investor Dan Niles indicated that he is scaling back his investments in hyperscalers and chip stocks. Niles, the founder of Niles Investment Management, said on CNBC's Squawk in the Street yesterday that he is retreating from the Magnificent Seven companies due to concerns over hefty AI infrastructure expenses. He anticipates these costs could potentially affect the return on investment for all of these entities. Despite recent gains in chip stocks, Niles is reducing his exposure, predicting a potential speed bump in the near future due to these concerns. Quote, but even there, with the stocks doubling, I'm just going ahead and trimming back some of that exposure, end quote. Key takeaway here is that he's up and he's just trimming, he's not liquidating. As AI costs climb, companies are shifting from maximizing token usage to minimizing it, seeking greater efficiency and lower cost models. The trend has sparked concerns that reduced AI consumption could pressure revenues for hyperscalers that have invested billions in expanding the AI infrastructure. Quote, if you're routing things to cheaper models, well, what are your September guidance going to look like? End quote. Again, that came from Niles. The tech sector has seen a shift towards a more critical examination of corporate balance sheets. Gina Martin Adams, chief market strategist at HB Wealth, said Wall Street is increasingly distinguishing between Mag 7 companies that are successfully monetizing AI and those riding market hype. She called Alphabet's Google, ticker GOOG, and Amazon, ticker AMZN, as the winners in the Mag 7 group. By the way, Prime Day starts today for Amazon, basically the Black Friday of June or the summer. She noted that declining free cash flow yields and rising capital expenditures are prompting investors to scrutinize valuations more closely and demand proof that AI investments will translate into sustainable earnings growth. Furthermore, the current AI-driven semiconductor rally has surpassed the scale of the 1999 dot-com bubble, causing concerns over a sharp divergence in the broader market. Fundstrat's Tom Lee warned that the AI-driven stock rally could face an abrupt reversal, citing four risks: a Federal Reserve policy overhaul, capital being diverted to major IPOs and equity offerings, supply chain disruptions linked to the Strait of Hormuz, and extreme investor speculation fueled by record margin debt. On Monday, most Magnificent Seven stocks declined, led by a more than 5% and 4.7% drop in Alphabet and Amazon, respectively, while semiconductor stocks continued to climb, with Micron gaining 6.82%. So definite volatility there. Micron traded up. Some of these other hyperscalers traded down. I'd love to know what you folks think about any of these names. Are you waiting for a pullback on some of these names? Do you agree with Dan? Do you agree with Parker here? Where do you think we go? How do you think we finish? Lion says, I agree, Ryan. We should see SPY a way higher this year, but I'm expecting a big correction in early 2027. So let me ask you then, just hypothetically, are you expecting more of a correction or pullback in 2026, or do you just think it's all straight up on that? Can you link that article? Good morning. Yes, I absolutely can. And Big B's, what I will say here, I'll throw it in the chat. Any article that I cover and read here, I'm more than happy to link. A lot of the times I'm pressed for time, so I'm just rolling through it too quick. But stop me just like you did here. I'm happy to share any of these articles. All right. Next story here. This is regarding IBM, which was higher here today. Big B's, you might also want this one too. We talked about this on the happy hour yesterday. We talked about IBM being a possible day trade here. So let me just go ahead and throw this in the chat as well. Also, I want to remind you folks, we have a poll that's live right now. So when you get a chance, please go ahead and vote in that poll. Some of the polls that we're putting in here are being done by our writers, and we're including the results in some of the stories. So your opinion matters. Please get those votes in. Next story here. You don't often hear this, but Trump has regret. Trump admits regret over selling IBM stock too soon after praising the CEO for its leading fab and U.S. chip push. Goes on to say that his pike, if you will, or his early sell was, quote, not a good move. President Trump on Monday praised International Business Machines, or ticker IBM's chief executive Arvind Krishna for the company's advances in semiconductor manufacturing, highlighting its role in strengthening U.S. chip production during remarks at the White House. Speaking in the Oval Office while signing executive orders, Trump commended Krishna's leadership and the firm's investment in advanced fabrication. Quote, "What a job you've done. We've invested in this fab. He's got a great leading fab," end quote. Trump also made a personal aside about his past investment in the stock, saying, quote, "I used to have that stock when it was much, much lower. I brilliantly sold it when I became president. That was not a good move," end quote. Trump's praise for Krishna comes in the wake of a series of strategic moves by the administration to bolster America's position in the global tech race. And on Monday, the president signed executive orders to accelerate quantum computing development, targeting the development of a research-capable quantum computer by 2028. I want to pause right there. A research-capable quantum computer. Now, that's definitely an important qualifier there. But one of the things that we have been talking about really for over a year now is how far away is quantum actually? I think that this is proof in the pudding here. If you have a quantum or a research-capable quantum computer by 2028, I think it's safe to say that quantum is absolutely closer than what we were initially saying. I know we had kind of Jensen going back and forth on some of this. really kind of changed the landscape here. But I think this pretty much puts a nail in the coffin in the argument. Quantum is closer than initially thought. Just to continue here, while directing federal agencies to adopt quantum-resistant encryption by 2030 and 2031 to guard against future cyber threats. So quantum computer looks like it's going to have a defensive posture, at least in its early stages. The Commerce Department recently moved to award roughly a total of $2 billion to quantum tech companies like D-Wave Quantum, which is ticker QBTS, Ionic, ticker IONQ, Rigetti Computing, ticker RGTI, and Inflection, ticker INFQ, and others under the CHIPS and Science Act, including $1 billion for IBM to establish a quantum foundry in Albany, New York. IBM matched the federal funding with its own $1 billion investment, solidifying its commitment to the initiative. IBM also announced a $10 billion investment in quantum computing over 5 years, aiming to build the world's first large-scale, fault-tolerant quantum computer by 2029. Earlier this month, an old clip of Trump praising Krishna went viral amid a nearly 30% surge in IBM stock in a week. The federal backing reinforces Wedbush analyst Dan Ives' bullish view on IBM, which he has described as a, quote, sleeping giant with significant growth potential. On a year-to-date basis, IBM stock declined by 13.48%, according to Benzinga Pro. On Monday, however, the stock rose 1.25% and closed at $252.22. Trump has repeatedly promoted specific companies, and recent ethics filings show he purchased shares in at least 2 firms before publicly boosting them or implementing favorable policies. The filing reveals that he acquired stakes in Dell, ticker DELL, and NVIDIA, ticker NVDA, shortly before publicly praising Dell and before a policy decision that benefited NVIDIA's China sales. While the timing has drawn attention, the White House said that the investments are held in an independently managed trust, that Trump has no involvement in trading decisions. Pulling one from the Nancy Pelosi playbook on that one. All right, next story here. Goldman Sachs has a new warning for the oil bulls, and I almost can't believe this is the case, but they're saying that EV adoption is accelerating quickly to the point where it might actually make an impact on the price of oil. Investment bank Goldman Sachs, ticker GS, has released a new report stating that the global EV demand could record a surge that will offset demand for oil by late next year. Not sure how I feel about this one, to be honest. In a report released on Monday, the investment bank outlined that EV car sales in the market increased by 3.4 percentage points in May. EVs accounted for 26.1% of total sales in the global market. The study outlined demand for oil in the global market could take a hit of around 130,000 barrels a day by December of next year if there is no growth in EV sales. However, under the persistent acceleration scenario, oil demand could be offset by 320,000 barrels per day during the same period if the growth follows February to May's path. The note also said that 2- and 3-wheeler EVs, which accounted for a majority of sales in markets like India and Vietnam, could offset about 1/3 to 1/2 of the fuel that 4-wheeler EVs can. According to a report by the Energy Information Administration, or the EIA, published on June 9th, the agency expects global oil demand to decrease by an average of 1.1 million barrels per day in 2026, while it will rebound sometime next year by 2.5 million barrels per day in 2027 to 105.3 million barrels of oil every day. EV sales in the U.S. reached a record high in May, with preliminary numbers showing 85,000 units sold. The average EV transaction price was $54,532, and that is a 4% year-over-year decline from May of 2025. The growth comes despite President Trump doing away with the $7,500 federal EV tax credit. Tesla CEO Elon Musk, defending against the allegations that his business benefited from government subsidies, said that Tesla's sales increased after the end of the federal EV credit. Meanwhile, investor Ross Gerber of Gerber Kawasaki said that the spike in gas prices sparked by the Iran war would lead people choosing EVs over gas vehicles, adding that such a shift can benefit Tesla. So what do you folks think about that? You think oil becomes less important and EVs are a major driver of that? Let me know. And Anne-Marie saying, is Ryan choppy to anyone else? You know, we had some issues yesterday. So producer, let me know. You look fine to me. Okay. So Anne-Marie, unfortunately, that might be on your side. I actually look okay in the preview here, but we've learned not to trust that. To actually trust what actually ends up, what you guys actually end up seeing. So anyway, let me know. You're smooth here, no chop here. Okay, great. Let me know, in fact, what you think about the EVs kind of picking up. Maybe there's a trade there for some of the EVs. Maybe there's a trade in oil. Folks will have to let me know how you think about that. Now, yesterday, so this next story here, yesterday, I think it was Barb. Barb, I don't know if you're out there. You asked, I think it was you, maybe I'm confusing this with somebody else. You were asking yesterday about, is Tidewater a good play on the Strait of Hormuz reopening? And I told you that I thought that some of the tankers were like a more direct play and maybe Tidewater would benefit from that. But with the offshore drilling, I'm not necessarily sure how much of a direct play that is. So I came across this story here today about Scorpio tankers. And the product tanker strength extends beyond the Hormuz crisis. So I figured I would just cover this here real quick. In this episode of Capital Link's Trading News podcast, and in fact, that is linked in the article, so I might as well throw this article link in the chat as well. Here you go. Let me go back to the story here itself. All right. In this episode of the Capital Link's Trending News podcast, Mr. Robert Bugbee, president and director of Scorpio Tankers, ticker STNG, and Mr. James Doyle, head of corporate development and IR, discussed how the potential reopening of the Strait of Hormuz is about to affect an already strengthening market. Evidently, the closure of the strait has dominated shipping headlines in the past few months. Mr. Doyle believes the strongest case for product tankers extends well beyond the latest geopolitical crisis. After all, before disruptions intensified, MR earnings were reaching $30,000 per day and LR2 returns of nearly $40,000. For STNG, the bigger story is not what happens in the Gulf over the next few months, but how the refining system has changed over the last decade worldwide. Refinery closures in Europe, Japan, and Australia, and now parts of the United States have become more dependent on long-haul product movements from the large export hubs in the Middle East, India, and Asia. At the same time, quote, there is steady demand in those regions. It has not declined as much as reports 5 years ago or 2 years ago predicted, end quote. Mr. Doyle noted this, indicating that the market is now directed by ton miles, not outright fuel consumption growth. Mr. Doyle also suggested some trade pattern changes created during the disruptions may prove permanent. He actually pointed to shipping traffic through the Red Sea as an example. Well, yes, attacks near the Bab el-Mandeb forced vessels on longer routes through the Cape of Good Hope. Cargo volumes did not return after scrutiny conditions improved. Quote, when they stopped attacking ships, volumes never recovered. They're still 30 to 40% of the levels they were before, end quote. A key near-term variable is the global inventory cycle. Scorpio noted that prolonged disruptions have significantly drawn down global product inventories, potentially setting up a multi-year restocking phase. For product tankers, restocking process is constrained as refinery capacity is mostly fixed in the short term, and there is very little that can be done to quickly expand output. For crude tankers, restocking is more layered, combining inventory rebuilding with rising supply from growth regions such as Guyana, Brazil, West Africa, Venezuela, and the US, which can flow into the system more flexibly. Scorpio Tankers' financial position has seen some major shifts over the past several years. The company has spent these years aggressively deleveraging and renewing its fleet. Its net debt stood at $2.9 billion at the end of 2021, and by May of 2026, it had moved into a net cash position with gross debt of $932 million and cash exceeding $1 billion. Mr. Bugbee noted that the balance sheet has strengthened even further since the company's latest reported figures, helped by vessel sales and strong spot market earnings. He added that the stronger balance sheet is reducing financing costs as well as debt repayment obligations. The company has also continued selling older vessels at historically attractive prices and adding modern tonnage. Scorpio currently has 10 new buildings scheduled for delivery through 2029, and Mr. Bugbee sees opportunities to expand the company's presence in the VLCC sector. Even in that area, however, Mr. Bugbee sees reason for caution. The VLCC order book now exceeds 30% of the existing fleet, a level he believes could eventually pressure vessel values. Quote, I think that people who are expecting a big positive event in the VLCCs over the next few years may be sadly surprised, end quote. For now, the company appears content to let cash accumulate and maintain its exposure to the spot market. So you'll have to let me know what you think, Barb. Let me know if you do end up trading Tidewater or if you move to something else. How are you trading what's going on in the Strait and also in the just in the oil market or the energy market in general? Let me know how you're looking at that. All right. Knapp says, oil is a strange product. Once it's pumped out, it cannot be put back into the earth. A complex operation. No, you're right. That complex operation takes millions of years for organic life to decay and turn into oil. It's not easy to just get it back down there. All right. Now, it is Tuesday. You know what that means, folks. It is a T3 Tuesday, and our T3 guests have been absolute bangers week after week, and I am very, very happy to welcome back our friend, Charlie Moon. Let's go ahead and say good morning to Charlie. Charlie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing really good, man. The weather is gorgeous. It's summer. The golf game is absolutely rocking, and we've got World Cup going on. So when I get off work, I got plenty of other things to keep my attention. Things are going well. It's good to see you here this morning, and I love the command center behind you, by the way. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I just bought a new house, got the entire basement, so got my workstation set up. Still need to set up my background, but it's a work in progress here.
All right. Congratulations on the new digs. Looks awesome, folks. Charlie Moon spots high potential setups in his Thursday Blitz, with members seeing gains of up to 665% this year. Wow. Join his live training this Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern to see how he does it. Get access to his next signals. Claim your free seat now. The QR code is on the screen. All right, Charlie, let's just dive right into it. Is there anything that you can preview from this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, quite honestly, it's kind of a basket of the same candidates. They're pretty much, we call them 0 DTE, but they're 1 DTE. These signals go out the day before expiry. I try to spot high beta names, names that are, generally either active during the week or high volume and interest, trending names. And I try to shoot what's known as profit pockets. A lot of these are set up to design to break through key technical levels or key, just key levels where, potential breakouts could occur. Some of these names, especially with the implied volatility on option these days, I need a really large outsized move. But, if we could spot it properly, we could certainly take advantage of the opportunity. And they're just low risk bets. Premiums are generally an average around 60 to 70 cents. Early in the year is probably around 50 cents. But again, due to the cost of trading right now, they're a little bit higher, but we've gotten returns that knock on the door from $5 to as high as $10 overnight. So all we're trying to do is, I'm not trying to win at a 80% accuracy. It'd be amazing if I did, but I think my winning average for the year is around 40%, 42%, and if I hit that on a weekly basis, people are going to be pretty darn happy.
Yeah, and I think with that kind of win rate, letting your winners run there is really going to determine what those profits are. So awesome, great preview there on what to expect. Again, folks, QR code's on the screen there. Be sure to sign up for that. Charlie, what do you think of what's going on? I guess let's start with the sell-off here. Are you a fan of the broader market moving down and maybe giving some entries to some of these high flyer stocks that we all want to own?
Yeah, exactly. People are kind of searching to figure out why the Kospi triggered everything. And it sounds funny because the only legitimate reason that makes sense at this moment is that people have discovered how to trade in the Kospi, and it requires a lot of margin. And there was a lot of margin calls overnight due to the pullback. And that was forcibly liquidating a lot of these stocks. This isn't the first time the Kospi has halted down. We've seen it happen several times over the last 6 months. This is an emerging market, in my home country that has absolutely exploded due to two names, SK Hynix and Samsung. It's the memory plays. For me, this is a great short-term dip buying opportunity. I think that especially for people that are anticipating a big jump in Micron, it's not a surprise by any means that Micron is probably going to have real big blowout numbers. I'd be stunned if their guidance wasn't way above Wall Street's expectations. And, this isn't hyperbole. This is legitimate. We've heard Jensen Huang from NVIDIA talk about it. And the most notable case is actually Tim Cook coming out saying they have to raise iPhone prices. And he was very specific, is due to the cost of memory. So, Micron, I guess a lot of these memory plays are essentially a year and a half behind on orders. Micron is going to be able to get all that up and running once they get their Boise facility, and I believe they have another facility opening up over the next year and a half to basically hit that supply chain. I just think Micron, the lower it goes, the better the chance they're going to explode on earnings. Where they were yesterday, they pretty much needed a god tier level of earnings, very similar to how NVIDIA first caught Wall Street off guard for AI. But I think it's a little bit easier for them to really kind of lift from this price point being down $100 in pre-market right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you there. We're down exactly $100.78 here in the pre-market. I'm with you. In fact, just last night on our after-hour show, when we were kind of discussing what to expect this week or what we saw with the market, one of the things that the entire group was pretty unified on is, hey, it actually makes us a little bit nervous that Micron is just on this meteoric run right into earnings. So the fact that we're actually down $101 here, $102 here in the pre-market, maybe this actually brings us down another $100, puts us near the 20, and sets up for that big beat that we're all kind of expecting from the earnings tomorrow. That actually might be a little bit better to trade. Lion here from our chat says this is a great dip buying opportunity, specifically in Micron, if it reports a stellar number. And I think we're all kind of expecting that.
Yeah. And, Micron actually, outside of the obvious, Micron actually, was presenting at a JP Morgan conference about 6 weeks ago. And one of the things that was mentioned was, we're not only going to be at our high end of our guidance, but it really looks like that we're going to overshoot this number by almost by 50%. And, this is something that I had talked about. I hold a mentorship group on Monday evenings. That Micron essentially at that point, and this was prior to the drop in post market and pre-market, they essentially had to not only beat the brakes off of earnings, but guidance had to come in at such a level that it would catch Wall Street off guard. It's similar to the idea that people Wall Street was expecting NVIDIA to report like $2.5 to $3 billion several years ago. And NVIDIA is like, no, we're going to make, $8 billion. And Wall Street's like, what? And then the very next earnings report, they're like, okay, so 8 billion. So we think you're going to try and hit that number and be a little bit higher. So, Wall Street estimates came in around 9.5, 10. And then NVIDIA was like, no, we're going to be doing 16. And again, there was just exponential explosion. So it's something that Micron, I don't really know what their numbers and estimates are. But if Wall Street's, let's say, expecting 8 billion or whatever the number is, Micron literally had to overshoot that by like double. They had to come in at 16 just for the stock to really go up and justify their valuation. We understand that the markets are a forward-thinking environment. Prices are a reflection of future valuation. But there's something to be said when the stock has gone up, from $300 to $1,200 in the last 3 months. So, again, the lower it goes into earnings, I just think it has a better chance that we're going to see that, $100+ move taking place off of earnings, and that's pretty much the only way, in my opinion.
Yeah, really quick. According to Benzinga Pro here, we are looking for an estimated EPS of 20.47, which seems absurd, and an estimated revenue of 35.42 billion. We'll see what Micron actually puts up when they report tomorrow. I know it's makes me laugh too when I read some of these numbers. One more thing I wanted to throw in here. We often talk, especially on Friday with one of our guests, we talk about market psychology and how this can impact trading here. Brandy with a great comment here. If everybody piles into Micron before earnings, there won't be anyone to buy, like Mark Petrino says. Just some food for thought here. Are you worried about this being kind of a concentrated trade and maybe that playing out, or is this all just about corporate earnings at the end of the day?
I mean, there's a point where obviously, people, if we talk about liquidity issues, yeah, there's always certainly a point where it becomes a concern that people run out of cash. But I just don't feel that's going to be the environment. I think that, quite honestly, a lot of the newer traders, especially with the new PDT rule, there's been a lot of people that have looked to exclude Micron from their list just because premiums are so expensive, or they traded on a weekly, especially early in the week. These guys are trying to bomb into premiums that are like $150, $200 out of the money, and those premiums are still more expensive than Nvidia would be on a 1 or 2 day expiry. There's a case where there's only a limitation or a small basket of retail traders that are actively looking to trade in on a daily basis. But it's more than you would think. And again, you'll be surprised at how many people, especially when they view this opportunity, may look to try and take a shot now, as opposed to, the last week and a half. So I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
Especially with Wall Street, they just have a never-ending amount of money. And quite honestly, the sell-off, which was triggered by essentially nothing, it wouldn't surprise me if a company like Jane Street found out that more retail was, kind of getting on the margin side and found that to be an easy squeeze. That's what they essentially look for. They look for liquidity pockets to take advantage of. They are obviously one of the behemoths of Wall Street. They have the ability. I mean, look at what they did in terms of influence on the precious markets. And, that's them versus more institutional and then retail. And certainly once, it gets a crowded trade, that's when they look to kind of pull the rug. They've done it in crypto. They've done it in precious metals. It wouldn't surprise me if they were all over crude. This is just the mark of a company that has thousands of thinking pods and trading pods, with pretty much an endless source of cash and capital. So, it wouldn't surprise me if that's the case. Who knows? For whatever reason, there was this huge downturn. But, especially with traders now, especially with, the PDT rule basically being thrown out the window, this is just going to turn into a great trading opportunity. We should see some really good volatility. I don't necessarily think that we're just going to only bounce today. I do believe that we could easily pull back, and it's something that traders just have to be aware of. So protect yourself, traders, and protect your profits. But I think it's going to be a fun day to trade.
Yeah, I'm hoping for the same thing. One of the things I said at the outset before we got on here is I'd really like to see the 50-day moving average get tested in the SPY. This is what I use as my market proxy. When we pulled back before, we got near it, but we never quite printed it. Now we're only 4 points away from it. So to me, an ideal scenario today for the purpose of trading would be a move down to 730, a hold of 730, allow us to enter, and then that bounce following that. That would be, I feel like we would be able to take advantage of that pretty good. All right, really good breakdown there on Micron. Is there anything else that you like or you're looking at right now? Are you interested in any of these quantum names in the back of that news? Any other AI names, robotics, biotech?
Oh, yeah.
You got anything out there that you like?
Well, IBM is holding up really well. It was weird. We were watching it yesterday, and all of a sudden, IBM just exploded. And turns out, the President Trump was actually talking about IBM. I believe he signed two separate bills funding quantum. So
Mhm.
quantum's definitely on my radar. IONQ, I was looking for a breakout, I believe, above 63. They got trapped at the 20 SMA yesterday. So, breaking through that level, it opens up to 73. IBM's been beaten down relentless. They're already looking to test somewhere around the 200-day moving average, but I really believe the breakout zone is going to be somewhere around 277, very similar as the 20 SMA. You know what really caught my eye more than anything was SpaceX.
Let's talk about it.
If you look at the volume yesterday, especially in the last hour of the day, in terms of trading volume was incredible. I believe it was marked around 36 million in volume, which is greater than almost their first 2 hours of the trading day. Now, if you think about that, where 80, almost 90% of the daily volume is traded in the first 2 hours of the day, it kind of told me that something was happening in the background, and it's not just heavy duty selling and liquidation. Certainly, there was a point of forcible liquidation from stops getting hit or people kind of capitulating out of the trade. But, it also tells me to match that kind of volume that there was some pretty significant buyers coming in on this pullback, as they gotten below that 150 price, or were approaching that 150 price. They were up close to, I believe, in pre-market trading as high as 158. They're back down to 150. So, the key level, in my opinion, is right around this 150, 149.34. That's the established low. Obviously, a break of that level could swing this back down to 135. I just believe that that's a great price to buy into the stock. But it wouldn't surprise me that, they find some strength within the next day or so. It just seemed like there was just too much like back end buying that, even as it was going down and these bids were getting hit hard, there were still more and more bids flooding the books. And it's like someone was looking to load up on it. And usually when it's Wall Street, they tend to know a little bit more than we do, and they're a little bit
Yep.
more comfortable, buying in, especially at open market, which you just generally don't see with that type of sizing. So, again, it was really notable to see that volume. It was notable to see that there was some pretty big liquidation, some pretty big buying coming in. So I'd like to keep them on my radar, especially if they're able to defend 150 today. It wouldn't surprise me that if the markets jump and they hold 150, that, they're just knocking on the door of 170 by the end of the day.
Okay, right there. That's a potential trade. If 150 holds, maybe look for SpaceX. Also, don't forget plenty of 2x levered ETFs. If you think you got the direction, I know. If you think you got that direction correct, I know we've talked about SPAL. We've traded that a little bit. SNK was a monster winner yesterday as this thing just broke multiple levels and continued to trade down. So plenty of ways to trade SpaceX here. Great breakdown there in SpaceX. Charlie, well, here, real quick, let's get the bills paid. Charlie Moon spots high potential setups in his Thursday Blitz, with members seeing gains of up to 665% this year. Join his live training session on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern to see how he does it and get access to the next signals. Let me ask you, you have anything else other than SpaceX that you really like right now?
Yeah, I really do like the quantum names. And again, names like MRVL, Intel, AMD really kind of have gotten ahead of themselves quite a bit, but they've been great performers. I'm not so sure about MRVL this morning. I still want to keep a very close eye on Intel. They really showed, the ability of wanting to break out yesterday. Them and SMCI in particular, and then of course AMD just shot up at the very end of the day, but they were holding on to their range pretty strongly in relation to other names where NVIDIA was breaking down and actually making new lows for the day. Intel was knocking on the door of trying to make new highs. So, obviously, Intel tends to follow NVIDIA, but Intel kind of stood out on its own. So the price that I'm looking at right around today for the bounces, right around 125s. I believe they work a little bit lower. It should be around 120, but I believe 125 is going to be a critical price. I think that's going to be a great dip to rip. I think the bounce is going to be really simple back to 130. I think that if it gets really crazy, it'll knock back on the door of 134s. AMD obviously is going to be a name to always watch, but AMD is showing a little bit more weakness, like MRVL and pre-market trading. So it wouldn't surprise me if the pullback actually may surprise people and get a little deeper than $500. I don't think it'll be much deeper. I think it'll be somewhere around the range of 492, the 21 EMA. Losing that level wouldn't be great. That really opens the door for AMD to rip it right down to 453. And then Google. I think that if we're going to be looking to fade, the Mag 7 names by far has got to be on watch. Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta in particular. But Google, they came down and filled the gap about a week and a half ago, bounced back up, got absolutely trapped at the faster EMAs. Losing two key engineers is kind of, helping the stock get cratered. They're trying to balance out at 338, but they lose that level. Your downside is the 200 SMA, and that's all the way at 311, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay. First of all, that was awesome. Speed run through a lot of the Mag 7 names there. Got to be honest with you, Charlie. I was flipping through the charts just as you were going through that. I like all of that. I like all of that. I love the spots. I see the exact same thing here on my charts as well. Really, really good stuff, folks. Charlie Moon spots high quality potential setups in his Thursday Blitz. You're getting a little bit of a preview with this now. Join his live trading session this Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, to see how he does it and gets access to his next signals. Also, give him a follow on X. His handle is @Disciple of Trend. Really, really good stuff. Charlie, we really appreciate all of your time here today. Good luck today, and I look forward to speaking with you next time.
Appreciate you, brother. Go Cubs.
Hey, all right. Go Cubs indeed. Go Cubs. All right. Charlie Moon from T3. I tell you what, I say it every week. I'm going to keep saying it because it doesn't change. T3 guys are absolutely lights out here. Really, really good rundown there on a lot of stocks that we constantly look at here. So we thank Charlie for that. All right. And then here, I'll actually throw his Twitter handle there in the chat. Go ahead and follow him on Twitter. Okay, now we got a street tweet for you here, and then we can do ticker time, and then we can take a look at some of the movers. Let's go ahead and do street tweets right now. All right, there we go. Our tweet here comes from the Kobisi letter. The AI revolution is reshaping the U.S. job market. And we've talked about this before. There's been a lot of fear-mongering out there about it. What's it actually doing? Well, wind turbine services technicians are expected to be the fastest growing occupation in the U.S. from 2024 to 2034, with projected employment growth of 49.9%, according to BLS estimates. This followed by solar photovoltaic installers. They're going to need some at that line facility that's still on fire, by the way, at 42.1% over the exact same time period. By comparison, nurse practitioners are projected to grow at 40.1%. I actually read an article the other day that said they're the most in demand of any of the healthcare workers in the hospitals. Data scientists are estimated to rise 33.5%. Furthermore, electricians and construction managers are forecast to grow nearly 10% by 2034. That's more than double the pace projected for accountants and lawyers. The construction sector already faces a shortfall of about 350,000 workers, a gap expected to exceed 1 million by 2030 as existing workers retire. Meanwhile, customer service and cashier employment is projected to decline 5% and 10% respectively from 2024 to 2034. The end result here, blue-collar workers are driving America's next job booms. Here is the chart for this. I am so happy that the data is playing out this way, because when the AI craze first started and we first started having discussions both here and in Happy Hour about what's AI going to do, I know just in popular culture, Joe Rogan talks about this with a lot of his guests. AI is going to ruin jobs. We're going to need universal basic income, or everyone's going to be bored playing video games and eating Cheetos. Not the case. Not the case at all. Actually, there's a lot of jobs that AI is not going to be able to replace. And AI, as we're seeing here, is creating a demand for new pockets of jobs. The best thing you can possibly do. If you can't beat them, join them. You're not going to be able to beat AI. Join it, use it. It will help. It is going to create more jobs as well. So a big victory here for blue collar workers. In my experience over the course of my life, some of the blue collar workers that I've run into are the hardest working, most reliable people I have come across. Great to see this stat here today. Great to see this stat here today. Okay, let's get back to pro. Boop. There we go. And let's see, how much time do we have? We have 3 minutes until 13 gets here. 3 minutes. I guess we can just do ticker time here. Let me roll through some of the comments and I'll see what we have here real quick. Brian, still short the luster on the SpaceX exposure. You're still short SpaceX, right? I think that's what you're saying. Sergeant Sexy is saying that Copen has news here today. That's interesting. Let's take a look at that real quick. This Copen chart actually looks like it might come back in and find a support level here. The news from today, it expands U.S. operations with new optics and photonics design center in Dallas, Texas. Michael Murray, the CEO, when he came on, he literally told us that he is going to try and produce more of these microelectronics and optics here in the United States. And what do you know? We've got a new center in Dallas, Texas. I know the stock's down 5.25% here. The whole market's down here today. This seems like another data point in what he had told us. Looking at Copen here, would love for this to close above the 50 today. If it doesn't, I would hope that it holds here at 420. But inevitably, if it breaks that, I think that you're looking at about 350 to 360 is probably where that support's going to be. Honorable mention down there at 313. That might be like 320 by the time we get down there if it does come in. I've talked about this before. This is not a trading stock for me. This is more of a long-term sit and wait stock to see if the story materializes here. So a move down to those levels would be spots to add slightly and dollar cost average, unless you think that this is just not going to happen. Like this news sounds pretty good here. Brandy's talking about Google, and you use GOOGL. I know I normally look at GOOG, but I'll do GOOGL since you mentioned that. Charlie was talking about this. I believe, Brandy, you'll have to correct me, but I believe this is the gap that you're talking about, the one from April 29th to April 30th here. We actually did fill this gap. It took a little bit, right? We kind of chopped around the area, but down here on June 11th, we filled it. We bounced right back up to the 20. We could not take this out. We immediately got swatted back down, and here we are sitting right above the 100-day. Charlie just told you he thinks 310. I think he said 311. By the time we get down there, and if you round up, 311 is right on. That actually looks to be the next support level. Also worth noting, volume point of control going back into the fall of last year, down there at 303. Let me actually get a different reading on. Let me back up to all of 2025. Okay, well, all of 2025 significantly shifts it. If we go to mid 2025, again, that puts it right here at about 305, 300. So those levels actually look pretty good to me as well. What else did I miss here? Lion, no surprise here, says you can hold Marvell for a few months and buying the dip is a great idea. Did I get the Twitter handle wrong? And then this guy Crypto Hub trying to spam himself. Are you kidding me? Get out of here. The Twitter handle is wrong. Okay, let me go paste it. Here, I got, dude, here we go. I'm going to retweet it. If you guys are following me, I just retweeted Charlie's tweet. Let me see if I can copy the link to this. That way I'll give you a link right to his tweet, and you can follow from right there. Okay, awesome. Let's see, did I get anything else? Frito-Lay for the Cheetos Pop. LOL. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and do a pre-market pulse and say hello to 13. Good morning, 13. How you doing today, boss?
I'm doing all right. How are you? How's everybody in the chat?
Good. We're doing really good here today. It is Tuesday. We're rolling right along. Charlie Moon came out hot here this morning with a lot of really good stuff. So we're doing really good. What do you want to take a look at first here today?
Let's look at the boring movers. I say boring because the list isn't long and they're not great stocks. And the less time we talk about it, probably the better.
Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Here are the movers. We'll start here. Well, what's on your list? Do you want to start with something specific?
We can eventually get to Zeta, but I was the ones that were on the top of my list here that I looked at were Bold, HSCS, and RDGT.
Okay, then I'm going to start with Bold, ticker BOLD. This is Boundless Bio. Looks like this stock closed at about $1.40 yesterday. Had a double up as we traded up to 280 and found some resistance there. We're kind of flagging right around the VWAP here, so this initial action, not terrible. Let's see what's going on here. Boundless Bio and Safara Bio announced a merger agreement and a $230 concurrent private placement. I'm guessing with you looking into this, you're going to have some more information on that, so I'll skip over it. Short interest here, literally nothing. Well, I shouldn't say literally nothing. There's actually 6,000 shares held short here, but it's basically nothing. Less than 0.5% there. Way less than 0.5%, less than 0.1%. 0.05. 1 day to cover on this thing. This short interest is not going to do anything. Float here, 13.5 million. On average, it trades 220,000 shares, done 21.3 million here today. 13, break this down for a fraction like us. For us.
Yeah, so this merger is going to end up resulting in a ticker change. It'll end up being AATD. The companies that are merging, you mentioned them. It's I don't have it in front for me right this moment, but they're merging together, and one of them is going to get a cash dividend pre-merger for the Boundless stockholders. So that's the Bold stockholders. So there is going to be a looks like a little bit more of a cash leaving the company, but we are going to be raising some more through private placement. So I don't think that there's any concern with the cash position of the company here. Looking at the other fundamentals, they still don't have revenue. This is a biotech company. They're not profitable, so they are going to need this cash because they are going to end up losing it. The chart is showing that we've kind of traded up into a bull pennant. We got a bit of a symmetrical triangle here following the impulse move that took us up to 280. Like so many of these symmetrical triangles, a lot of times when it comes to the bull pennant, they can go higher, but usually when with a triangle formation like this, I'd like to see which direction the price breaks out of. Does it break to the upside or the downside? That's usually the direction it goes for the morning. There's also a seller a large seller in the way at 245, showing up in my price letter here. So that's about shy of where the VWAP is. I have VWAP as resistance. Clearly that 245 area is also resistance there. So unless we get some large volume that's going to help us push through that seller, looks to me like this could end up going lower. So that's what I'd be watching for here with this one. An increase in volume to take us higher.
Okay. Do you have some type of drum that you're hitting on there? It feels like you have a foot drum or something. I maybe I'm the only one hearing it, but it is like there is a drum beat under your voice or something like that.
Sorry, that was just my boom hitting the side of my monitor.
Okay. Oh, perfect. Okay, great. All right. What was the next one that you said? I think you said HSCS.
Yes, I said
okay.
HSCS.
So this is Heart Sciences. This thing.
Oh, is Comcast striking again?
What?
Hopefully Comcast ain't striking again.
Can you hear me?
Is everybody else able to see me still, or
yes,
is it?
You're good.
Am I the only one that's talking to myself?
Am I muted?
There you are. Okay,
dude.
It must have been me, or I don't know, but you were frozen.
Okay. That's interesting. You were not frozen. I heard you the entire time. Yes, can see. Was I choppy there? I didn't notice anything here on my end. Okay. Nonetheless, HSCS, this is going to be Heart Sciences here. This closed at about $1.77 yesterday, traded above 350 here today, came back into the VWAP, lost the VWAP, trying to recapture the VWAP, has not been able to do it yet. FYI, we'll see if we are able to do that here in just a sec. Now, we do have a catalyst here. Fortitude and Heart Sciences, ticker HSCS, announced a business combination aiming to bring a leading vertically integrated Zcash mining platform to the public markets. The combined entity anticipated to trade on NASDAQ under the TUDE ticker, TUDE. Oh, that's going to be fun. I can't wait for the PRs there and the jokes with Tude. Short interest in this name, 1.4%, 1.94 days to cover. I don't think there's anything we have to worry about there today. Float 3.11 million. On average, this thing is an absolute ghost town. You can see the tumbleweeds roll by. But today, 49 million shares have been traded on the day. Stock's up 64%. 13, what do you think here on HSCS?
Yeah, so this is Heart Sciences, and this is why I was kind of scratching my head earlier this morning, because this is like a medical device company, but they recently received a patent for using machine learning models and computation to calculate echocardiogram parameters using ECG data. So they're leaning into AI to help with their medical devices, which is very interesting. But this is a mining company that they're merging with. So I'm kind of wondering, is this one of these things that we've seen with some of these biotechs and these medical device companies where they're creating a treasury with crypto assets? That's the question I have, and I don't think I really got my answer, but I think I could speculate that I have here. The company does have some cash, no revenue, it's not profitable. Didn't look too much into this and how that's going to all change with the combination of Fortitude Mining, but I really don't have much more to add on this combination here. I don't think these combinations of treasuries and biotechs have been overwhelmingly successful. I can't think of a success story where this all worked out. So hopefully it does with this one. As far as the chart goes, we need to get back above VWAP, and that's what we're trying to do right now.
Yeah, bingo.
There is also a trend line that I drew earlier. It started at the 366 high. I drew it through the high at 815. We've since broken over this trend line, and I think we already considered maybe getting a back test, but this would be the trend line I'd be watching for support if we cannot get back above VWAP. You have the 65 EMA down at 232. So these are just another area of support if we come back down. But I think we need to see the VWAP broken next.
Okay. Really good stuff there. HSCS. All right. What else did you have on your list?
RDGT.
RDGT. And then I think we'll take a look at Zeta after that. So RDGT, this is going to be Ridge Tech. Mm-hmm. This thing closed. This is a China pump. Maybe we'll see here. 13. What closed at 137, traded up to 469. Nice. In the pre-market has come almost all the way back in. We're still holding higher by about 55% here. I don't have any fresh news on this. The last thing we had was an insider sale of nearly 58,000 shares. That was on June 18th. So no fresh news on this, at least as far as I can see. 1.85% of the float shorted. 1 day to cover on this, negligible short interest. But we have a micro float here, 884,000 shares in the float. Stock trades just shy of 1 million shares a day. Today it's done 44.5 million. 13, what do you have here? RDGT.
Well, it's funny you point out that insider seller, because just days before those insider sales, they were insider buys to the tune of about pretty much the exact same amount. Spent a couple of days buying shares at a higher price and ended up selling at a loss at a lower price. No idea what HRT Financial is doing, but that's what they've been doing. Anyway, there's no news that this is running on here today, so buckle up and just enjoy the ride, I suppose. The company does have cash, it has revenue, and it is now profitable after a couple of years of turning a profit here. But the float is very small, 844,000 shares. So looks like this is going to be the one that, for today at least, that some traders latch on to, maybe take it for a little ride. We'll see if that ends up happening. But right now we're trying to hold above the 65 EMA. And if we get that, I think the next resistance is going to be up around 230 that we need to get above. You have the VWAP up at 265. That's going to be the next area of resistance. Very low float. Anything can happen with this. Just, don't plan on holding this overnight. This is a day trading vehicle, and that's all I would look at it.
Okay. All right. Really good stuff there. RDGT. I see you guys talking about Ondas having major news. I don't see it moving here. I will take a look at that here in a sec, and I'll actually take a look at the text from the PR there. But before we do that, I want to cover Zeta here. This was mentioned earlier by Zach. Zeta Global Holdings shares are trading higher after the company announced a strategic partnership with Palantir to build a unified data and AI infrastructure for marketing. Now, let's do a quick look around the horn on this one. 13, I don't know if you covered this one at all, but I'll go to you here in a sec. I actually have some notes I'll roll through. This one does have some elevated short interest, 13.71% of the float shorted in 3 days to cover. Not high on either metric, but still elevated. May come into play here today, depending on how it trades. Float on this one, thick, 223 million shares. Well, I should say thicker than some of the other ones that we've traded here before. On average, it does 8.6 million shares. It's done 1.58 million here today. So we'll see how this thing ends up trading here. Now, I did have some notes from going through the PR earlier here. The PR is actually good for both companies, but it's more clearly a positive for Zeta than it is for Palantir. That should be no surprise. Actually, a quick check on Palantir here. That's higher in the pre-market here today, higher by about 0.67%. By the way, Zeta's customer intelligence layer is being rebuilt on top of Palantir's Foundry. Basically, this means that Zeta is no longer standing entirely on its own data infrastructure as part of this product. That should make it easier to sell into large enterprises that already trust Palantir's governance. So there's a good or a positive there from the deal. Additionally, management also said that the deal would contribute or could contribute more than $100 million in annual revenue in the coming years. Now, that's a forward-looking statement, not a guarantee, so we'll play it by ear on that. But so far, on the surface, news actually sounds pretty good. Now, the trading action, we popped up to 21, found some significant resistance, retraced 50% of that entire move, tried to make another run back towards 20 and a half. We rolled over. We found some support at the VWAP, but we have since broken the VWAP. We'll see here if we recapture it. My eye has about 19 and a half as the next possible support level. 13, what do you think here for the chart on Zeta? And do you have enough for me to step away and go to the washroom?
Sure.
BRB.
Yeah, so the chart's one thing. I'm still trying to wrap my head around this partnership here. This is, I get that. Okay, so Zeta has some pretty big enterprise partners. I mean, we're talking like, T-Mobile, Frontier, Toyota, lots of really big institutional players here. So I can understand the need for protecting customer data and maybe marketing to customers. I guess I'm just kind of curious about how that's supposed to work, because we do have, this ongoing issue with data, individual, Americans' data security and your data being sold or scanned so they can get an edge in what to market to you. I have more questions about what this is supposed to do than answers. Does that protect against it, or is it just going to accelerate that? I guess that's kind of where I'm, what I'm wondering is how does this work for the individual person? Is it going to be against them or for them? And I think that's the big question I would have at first. Let's look at the chart here and see what I got, though. So that's on the daily. Let's go to the 5 minute. So it looks like we're trading underneath VWAP now. Had a pretty good run that took us over 20. So I guess I would say that maybe 20's the tough spot, the tough handle to stay into. Kind of went sideways as soon as we entered that handle. Couldn't go a whole lot higher. As a matter of fact, the high was that first impulse move to 21. So we know that we couldn't even get halfway there on the next move up. I think that's what I would be keeping an eye on if we do manage to recapture VWAP is how the price behaves around $20. If we can get back up in there and maybe even get above 20.50. But if we can't recapture that VWAP, I think we're coming down to 1930. We're down where the 65 EMA is.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there. ZETA. Now, let me go to Ondas. Then we'll take a look here at Accenture. We'll try and get you some levels there. Here's Ondas. It is down 3.71%. Now, this was down early in the pre-market, and this actually kind of traded lower in the overnight session as well. Down here at 856. really want this thing to bounce at some point. Now, here's the news here. Ondas Centrix announces a collaboration to integrate Centrix cyber over RF technology into Lockheed Martin's Sanctum CAUS program. And then it also looks like we had another PR here regarding other drones. Looks like this is promoting Vision Wave, UMAC, PUSA, Ondas, and Red Cat as drones being the next multi-billion. We already know that, right? That to me seems like we already know that. Here are some notes from this PR. Under the collaboration, Centrix cyber over RF technology will be integrated into Sanctum, which is Lockheed Martin's next generation counter UAS solution to protect military forces, homeland security, and critical assets against evolving unmanned aerial threats. Sanctum tackles complex drone threats, including coordinated swarms of rapidly evolving UAS tactics. So, under the collaboration, Centrix solution will add a precise cyber-based detection and mitigation layer to Sanctum's multi-domain architecture. Tell you what, that sounds good on the surface. Let me actually grab the press release and see if I can take some nuggets out of this. While I'm doing that, 13, do you have any thoughts on the Ondas PR itself, or even perhaps the chart?
When it comes to the Ondas PR, I feel like we're getting a lot of recycled news. So I'm just going to go with what the chart shows me.
Okay.
I think $8 looks like a pretty good support spot for ONDS. Losing the 200-day SMA, not great, but if we can recapture it soon, then we should be okay. Here's a couple of other longer-term charts, or at least one longer-term chart that I'm looking at where I think we could be getting support soon. So I already like $8. If you go to a weekly, we're almost down to the 50-week SMA. We've not seen or really even interacted with this moving average since May of 2025. So to get support here, I think would be pretty significant. We could see the underside of it going down to maybe test the support at 8. But as long as we don't close the week beneath this moving average, I think that we could be maybe attempting a reversal here. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself. It's Tuesday. We haven't even had the regular session yet. But I think that this 50-week SMA is what I'd be keeping an eye on for support.
Okay, good stuff. I will address the recycled comment here. So this is not recycled news in a strict sense, but it is partially recycled. The release explicitly leans on the prior May announcement of more than $30 million in new orders and says that the June orders now take Q2 to date activity of above 150 million. So this is the next step in running a sequence of order updates rather than brand new operating revelation. Here are the genuinely new elements from the press release today. More than 40 million in aggregate June orders across government and defense customers in multiple international markets. The claim that Roton's Skylance successfully completed a trial under the UK Ministry of Defense Project Backstop, which the company says validates its LMS platform. An updated Q to-date order activity figure of more than 150 million. So this actually looks like this is kind of a checkup on the theme that's going. It's like it's the next step in this theme here. The release does not give enough details to verify backlog conversion or the timing of revenue recognition. And Joe, I think this is your gripe about not having, as much money being involved here, although they do make a very direct call to some of that. From an investor quality standpoint, this is a good catalyst in terms of its sentiment, but it's mediocre as hard evidence. Again, we've talked about Ondas being all about execution. This is a good sign, but the execution is not over. So here are some things to watch based on the PR that we got here today. How much of the reported activity is firm orders versus awards, pilots, and options? I don't know how to get the answer to that. If I figure it out, I'll let you know. Whether these orders convert quickly into revenue or sit in the backlog for a long time. Unfortunately, we're probably going to have to wait for the next earnings to know the answer to that question. It might sound good, especially coming from the company, but we might not know for sure until we actually get the next earnings report. And then also, we want to watch for whether Skylance becomes a repeatable commercial product or if it just remains this kind of story asset. We're not sure if that's the case here, and whether management can keep issuing large order headlines without disappointing on margins, cash flow, or execution. This is still all going to come down to earnings. If they continue to produce good earnings, company is going to be okay. If the execution lacks, you could see some more downside ahead here for Ondas. Mashmallow says, Ondas is gone. It will revisit too. I'll take the other side of that bet. Unless we have a catastrophic market move down, I do not think Ondas prints 2 again here. But we'll see. Again, this all comes down to execution. Joe, let me know if any of that helped. Good stuff going through that PR there. Now, I also promised a look at Accenture. We've got 9 minutes till we open. Let's do that. This is going to be ticker ACN. We're going to move to the big chart here. I know exactly why you guys are talking about ACN pretty regularly. We've actually talked about this in the news. Remember, this is the company where the CEO, Julie Sweet, said, look, folks, you have to use AI here. In fact, so much so that you cannot get promoted at our company anymore unless you are proficient with AI. And she went on to say that we've given employees enough time to get familiar with all of that. Unfortunately, the stock has been in a massive downtrend, even with that news here. And I think, didn't we talk about this? I feel like a couple of days ago, we talked about the next possible support level. And I'm pretty sure 125 was one of them. And here we are at 126.92. We are up 1.67%, so perhaps we're bouncing off of that support area. This is what the chart looks like on ACN. 13, I'd love to get your opinion here. The thing is oversold, and it does look like we're at a support area. Perhaps there's a possible bounce coming here for Accenture.
Yeah, I picked some of this up yesterday.
Perfect. So you're up 1.82% today.
Well, I added.
I'm joking because the stock's up here today.
Right, I got you. No, it's up. I picked this up when it was, coming off the lows. It was 120 and change. So, because I agree, this thing is really oversold, really hammered down. Its fundamentals are actually pretty good, really good to be honest. And I feel like this is just a really, really overdone move. Fantastic dividend at this price. I think there's way more to like about it down here than anything else. I think this is a good it's a good spot. Now, what I want to see next is to get a recapture of I think it's a 132. Hold on, let me look at a smaller time frame here. But we're going to see a gap fill at some point here. We got a nice reversal candle yesterday. So, okay, 135. Let's see if we can get through 135, I would say.
Okay, so you're looking at some of this near-term price action. Oh my goodness, yeah. I'm okay. And 135. So I see exactly what you're talking about here. That is the gap above. Lion is saying here that it bottomed. So Lion he's telling you. In fact, it almost sounds like Lion's guaranteeing you that it's not going to go lower from here. We'll see. I kid. Anne Marie, if you're still out there, perhaps ACN might make a decent stock to try and set up an options trade for when we move over to Anne Marie's segment here in about an hour. Just something to think about here, ACN. And then did some of you give some levels for this? Let me see. I know you guys have been talking about this, but I don't know that I saw any levels flash across here. Just checking out again real quick. I see 158. Okay, so Lion, so you said you saw 158 as the first resistance level to the upside. That would actually imply that you get a gap fill. And I'll be honest, the 20-day, depending on how fast that gap fill happens, if we do get that 20-day might actually creep down towards that 158 level by the time we get down there. Let me see. I don't think I got any other price levels from people. No, it was just the resistance area there. At 158. Brian here thinks this is a short. So Brian's not listening to the support level, the bounce, the gap fill. He didn't care at all about that. He says this is a short. Cultural Shock Investment says ACN 155. That level came off the weekly chart. I think you're probably looking at this right here, right? The bottom of this candle from the week of May 11th. Probably what you're looking at on that. At least I would guess. Just added it to the list. Thank you, Anne-Marie. You're the absolute best. You are the absolute best. Okay, good stuff there on ACN. What else do you folks want to take a look at here? Izzy wants to take a look at Blaze. Is that BLZE?
I think so.
Blaze? Because I don't, Blaze itself is not a ticker. Let me know if it's BLZ, if that's what you're looking for there.
Should be. It's up this morning.
Okay, so let's take a look at it then. Let's go back to the daily here. Look at this pop.
Yeah.
Look at this pop to this resistance where we made a former double top. Recent near term.
I'm just blasting over a trend line.
Okay, well, I'll get the trend line here in a sec. Backblaze shares are trading higher after the company announced it signed a 5-year multi-exabyte agreement with CoreWeave.
Exabytes,
okay.
Jesus.
Exabytes, yep. Actually, I believe they referenced exabytes in the Ocean's 13 movie, but okay, cool. My memory's not terrible.
The third one.
Ocean's 13, yep. Wasn't that thing called Grok? Anyway, all right, where's the trend line? Help me out with the trend line here.
If you look at the daily, it's from March 2024 and drive through the high of October 2025.
That's kind of what I thought. That's going to be right here. And now let me move to the right here. We'll extend this bad boy out. Here's the trend line that we broke. 13. How about a back test of this here today for a possible trade?
Back test. I mean, you could even see if it's volatile enough, you could even see a gap fill and then it closes up above the trend line still. I mean, look at how this thing trades. It's all over the place quite frequently. I could see this being volatile. What's the float on this?
Float on this
7, so it's not too small. But we do have a golden cross that we just recently had here on the daily back in the middle of this month, June 15th. It looks like.
Yeah, we did.
So that's I think that spells potentially some more upside here. We do have a little bit of an oscillation, but it's not so recent that I would kind of discount it. I think that's what I would I'd be watching for. Maybe even a back test on the trend line of support. I wouldn't be surprised if we gap filled and recapture the trend line. But and if we do hold above this, $12 looks like the next resistance area.
10-10, 10-11 is what I measured here by eye on the trend line in terms of that back test. We'll see if we end up getting that. All right, another one here, GLW. Want to take a look at Corning? We've got 2 minutes till we open here, so we're probably going to have to do this pretty quick. Here's what Corning looks like. Now, this also moving with some of the other high flyers that are getting a bit spanked here today. GLW traded up to a triple top level right around 210, closed at 209.83 yesterday. We're down almost 9% here, down about $18. Now, as far as the support level, would like to see if this could test 186 and hold it. That actually might be all right and perfect. GLW was also on Anne-Marie's list. We're going to have an options trade set up for you here pretty soon for that. Absolutely fantastic. 13, what do you think about this GLW chart?
Looks like it has a real problem with 12-12. So, I mean, visited it up here twice, rejected both times. First time was May 13th. Looked like we were almost going to get up there on June 3rd, but we only got as high as 208. And then yesterday, we were back up here at 212 trying to print over and close over it. Couldn't get that. Now we're down here much lower again. So seems like we're kind of in a bit of a range, but there's clearly a top end of this at 1212. And the more frequently we hit that, I think the more likely we could push through it. But we're going to have to get back up there pretty soon. I really don't have much more to add to that. I think 12-12 is going to be the big resistance area to watch for.
Okay. Okie dokie. We're less than a minute till we open. Let me flip over to the main workspace. Good luck, everybody. Good luck today here, everybody. Also, quick check-in on the VIX. We did pop above 20. So VIX currently at 2021. Casino is open, folks. Have a good one.
All right. Now, I don't know how great trading is going to be. With the way we had it yesterday, it was a massive departure from volume we were getting last week. World Cup fever is in full swing. So I think that's what we're going to end up seeing is just a lack of participation due to eyes being elsewhere, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. And you know what? You actually bring up a really good point about the volume yesterday, 13, because we didn't just have scrubs yesterday. We actually had really quality games in the afternoon. Let me actually look up the slate here today.
Zeta climbing out of the gate here, coming up to some of the basically the high it was at just a couple minutes before the open. RDGT pushing up to VWAP. HSCS looked like that was starting to climb up, but now it's heading lower. Bold trying to hold above the 235 area. Still no indication of which direction this might go. And that's all I've got on the movers for now.
Really quickly, 13, just to kind of jump in here. Today at noon, and I don't know if these are Eastern or Central times because I'm actually in Central. Today at noon, we have Portugal playing, and then at 3, we have England playing. Those are two very popular teams that might actually draw some attention away from the market.
Well, this is the I think today is the last day for all of the second games. So Wednesday is going to be the first games that the results of which we're going to start determining the round of 32 teams.
Yeah.
So this is, I think, this being that today is the end of that second series of games, pretty significant for everybody to be watching.
Yeah, and there are two really big teams that play here today. So okay, that's it. I didn't even think about that here. 13. That's a really interesting point.
RDGT is pushing through VWAP.
RDGT. And by the way, the SPY pulled off the open and bounced right away. Don't forget, we are still outside of the primary trade windows for the 0 DTE trades. No indicator or no signal yet. Here's RDGT. Wow, what a move through the VWAP. Daniel saying that knockout round takes eyes off the market. And I think the point 13 is making is that we're at the point now where we determine who is going to play in that round. I think he's spot on with that assessment.
Looks like some of the quantum names are having a good move out of the gate here. Ionic and Inflection looking pretty good. They had volatile mornings yesterday, so wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of that again today. Lots of back and forth. Indeed,
and that market bounce that we got basically took us to the VWAP. We'll see if SPY ends up clearing that out. Still kind of waiting on that. It is stopping at the VWAP indeed. Ondas, by the way, traded up out of the open on the back of that Lockheed Martin news. And Bitcoin, which was weak all morning, looks like it found some support down there at 62,000. Let's check in on SpaceX. I know that also was down here this morning in the pre-market. We had one bounce. That came right back in. SpaceX here struggling to get above its VWAP. Slippy indeed.
Yeah, just slightly dipped beneath the opening price, not the IPO price, but the opening price when this did IPO, which was 150. So that's going to be a support area. Maybe temporarily,
definitely
could be strong. I don't know, but it is a support area nonetheless. We could even see a gap fill after this open that we had here, which resulted in a gap down. There could be a gap fill, and then we might go on to lose that 150 level. Lots of different possibilities here, just some levels to watch for. So 150 is definitely one. This gap fill is certainly another. And then if we lose all that, you have 135, which is the IPO price.
GLW Corning, which we just took a look at, this actually sold off out of the open. We took out the pre-market lows right before the open, then plunged a little bit, but it is trying to regain its footing here. We'll see if this can recapture 193. One of the other big boys that we took a look at here this morning was going to be IBM on the back of that news. That is unable to get above the pre-market highs. Now, it did pull back to the 200 EMA and so far has held it. Actually overshot it a bit there. But so far, it has held it. This will be interesting to see if this can recapture VWAP. I've got it at 261.02. Let me bring up the SPY here because it looks like that bounce is still trying to go. 733.89 is what I have VWAP at. We are basically right at VWAP. G-Man, what do you have for your intraday SPY levels today, if you don't mind me asking? Since we're on the Oceans theme, why would I mind you asking? That's from Oceans 11, the first one. VIX holding steady here at 20.20. Easy for me to say. Let's see let's roll through some. What do you got?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for some of these movers to do something. Looks like Bold was getting weak and losing the VWAP. Still holding above it for now, but it might be trying to break down out of that triangle. RDGT still elevated here out of the gate, trading above the VWAP for the moment. I have that value at 268. If we get a little bit weak here, we could be testing that as support.
Real quick, 13, let me get this in here. Zeta, right? We have seeing a call sweep here. The $20 calls, this expires in August. Looks like a trader spent $112,500 on that trade. That is an upside buy there on Zeta. It is pretty much at the money, right? Stock is currently in a 19 handle. They bought the 20 calls.
Zeta, I was pointing out 20 and 2050. It went right to that 2050 and turned around and came back in. So that clearly I still think $20 even is a resistance area, but 2020 also very much up there with resistance.
Also, we talked about the SPY. That is rejected at the VWAP. That is rolling lower here. We're currently at 732.69 here on the SPY. Remember, we talked about 730 being that 50-day moving average and a possible move down or even break and recapture of that. I'm still kind of waiting on that. Looks like the SPY's next move here is going to be going lower. S&P futures at lows of the morning. All right, Blaze, this actually looked like this is bouncing off the 9 EMA, did not quite back test the VWAP. I'm also seeing inflection on the scanner here. This popped above the pre-market high. And then WIS here, this resumed. So your ATLN, this was halted here. This resumed, so far holding above that 9 EMA. No interest for me here on ATLN.
Yesterday, I think this one we traded DFTX. This is it's not up by a whole lot, but it's just straight up out of the gate. Bold might be getting making a move. We'll see.
When does the ticker change happen? Did we cover when that? I don't remember.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't look at an end date or when the merger is supposed to complete.
Got it. Zeta continuing to pull back here, low 19s. G-Man, sorry I had a concussion when I checked SPY this morning. I'm back after treatment. Oh, man, get well soon. Yeah, don't worry about SPY levels if you have a concussion. I'm sorry to hear that. Your wife didn't knock you out, did she? I'm just trying to lighten the mood. That probably wasn't even a tasteful joke. Bold, this is actually breaking the 15 EMA. I think that this, 13, we had a triangle on this on the other one, didn't we? Yes, we did.
We have a triangle on this one, and we're just waiting to see if it's going to choose that direction or not. It looked like it wanted to go lower, but still kind of just going sideways.
So here we go. We're basically on the bottom end of that trend line. We'll see what happens here. Oh, you were kidding? Okay, well, that makes two of us because I was kidding too. Of course, your wife didn't knock you out.
Mama say knock you out?
I mean, I was waiting for somebody to do it. We needed an LL Cool J reference here this morning for sure.
Yeah, these quantum names still climbing.
Can you take a look at QUBT? Well, 13 just talked about quantum names. Might as well start there. That's quantum computing. Here's what it looks like. So big rip right out of the gate here. 13, this is actually at the resistance area from yesterday. We'll see if it's got the strength to take that out here today.
I think, now let's look at some of the other ones that we know are getting, okay, because here's what happened. Yesterday, there was an executive order about, that it's supposed to bolster quantum computing for America. D-Wave, Rigetti, Ionic, those I think were maybe cited. I don't know, but I think that's why we're seeing this big run in quantum right now, is because of what was going on right shortly before the market closed or after the market closed. Yeah,
so here you go. Here are some of the stats on that, 13. The Commerce Department recently moved to award roughly a total of $2 billion to quantum tech companies, and the ones listed are D-Wave, QBTS, Ionic, IONQ, Rigetti, RGTI, and Inflection, INFQ.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this is separate from what the announcement we had earlier. I think it, I thought it wasn't. It might be, or it just might be the actual signing of what was already talked about. And, this is just finally Trump's signature on it. But if that's the case, then I think that's why these are moving here, because they're basically getting a bunch of cash.
SpaceX, this broke through 150. This is in danger of losing the pre-market lows and going lower, down by 4.5% here. I love Zach's comment in the chat. I start to see people losing it on X with SpaceX. Zach, are you using that as a metric to buy? Like when people are all caps screaming and saying SpaceX is a bust, is that when you're looking to add? Let me know here on SpaceX. This looks like this is going to break lower here. In fact, oh my, we're gonna test this pre-market low right now. More Zeta calls going off, by the way. Those are the 20 calls for July. Tell you what, Zeta call activity is for real here on the back of that news. Looking at the SPY, we did move through the VWAP. Boy, I think I took my eyes off that for a minute and a half, and I got a buy and a sell signal. Sorry, 13?
HSCS.
Putting it on screen, HSCS. Okay, that ripped through the VWAP. We are coming up to a resistance area right here.
Yep. Just looking around.
Velo, by the way, that's back down in a 22 handle. The pre-market low was 2180. A break beneath 20 and a move towards 15 is going to have me looking at it again.
Oh yeah, come back in. I'm like Dave Chappelle when he was playing as Rick James, and he's just like this. I'm just like, yeah, come on in. Come on in.
That is, oh my God, that is such a good, memorable moment from that particular skit. I'm all out of Velo, so full disclosure here, my own personal bias, I definitely want this to come back in. Yeah. Every day it trades up without me, I'm like, damn it. So I would love for it to come back in so I can add some more. Eric asking about LAES. That's been another previous runner for us. Let's take a look at that.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right about that, Jay. People were looking at this thing ripping out of the IPO, and they're like, oh, I got to get in on that. And now they're underwater.
And that's kind of what we expected. I did my best. 13, you included in this. We both did our best to say we're kind of waiting for this for the purpose of investment. Maybe it goes higher. I showed you a chart of what the IPO life cycle normally is. Yeah. Derek says, I have a SpaceX buy at 100. I like that. Of the round 100 level, I expect the stock to bounce if it sells off to that level. Brian, you're also sitting on the bid there at 100. Okay, good to know. AES levels. Eric, you had asked about levels. I brought up the chart, and then I didn't give you a single level here. Looking at this one, I think 347 actually might be one of them. That was a recent high. Also, the 200 EMA off of the daily. I think we also have a trend line in here, don't we? Well, we can't really use that big spike. I'm just kind of eyeballing this one. I don't know how great this trend line is going to be. That actually puts the target right around that 347, 350.
350.
350.
That's the resistance.
I think we're all in agreement there. Let's check in on ATLN. This is one of the ones that WIS was trading out of the halt. Looks like this did hold the 9 EMA there. It's trying to go higher. NVD, SOXS on the scanner list there, and SPY actually trying to bounce here. So I know it was very, very quick, and I didn't call out the buy, but I am getting a trim signal here now on those 0 DTEs. I'm not in it, by the way. I have no position in those here today. Matthew, still waiting and hanging on to my one share. I won't add till it's lower, then it's to buy. I'll be honest with you. I've done this before. I've literally bought one share of a company just to calm the nerves and be like, you own a share. And this is actually what I did with Costco. I said, you own a share, chill. And then when it comes in lower, then you start building your position. You already have exposure. You don't really feel like you're missing it. Obviously, if it ran, you'd feel like you'd want more there. But Matthew, you're not the only person to do that.
Yeah, SNK has been the best trade.
SNK has been the best trade for SpaceX since that thing opened yesterday. All this thing did was trade up yesterday.
125% rise at the current price off the bottom, which was, I have 994. It's trading at 22.39.
Lions taking a look at Micron. Remember, they report earnings here tomorrow. Micron, does it bounce from here? I think this is, Lion, you're cheerleading a bounce from here. Let's see if this holds. 1070.
And here we go with the China pump and dumps. RDGT is halted to the downside. Pretty sure this was the China name. Yes. No news. Very low float. Goes up, goes down. Get out of town. HSCS, meanwhile, is trying to take the next leg up, approaching the highs of the regular session and through. Coming up to the highs of the pre-market, 366. Still having a hard time getting to 366, but not retreating quite yet.
Market looks like it is trying to continue this bounce. It's at 735. The VWAP is at 733.98.
I'm going to pull in the quantum names as well. I think everything might be pulling a little bit here. Let's see if there's any news in the broader market. Oh, we had PMI.
Just got a buy signal on the 0 DTE indicator. So I'm looking at the 737 call. Buy indicator came at 148. Current ask 162. SPY continues to move higher here off of that. I'll let you know if I get a sell signal here on this.
So there's this news here about the U.S. to award $17.5 billion in loans for large nuclear reactors. This was some news I was coming across the wire earlier this morning. Westinghouse AP 1000 nuclear reactors. Did we look at this at all, or any plays potentially for this?
I did not. The SPY is continuing to bounce here. 181. They ask on that 148 buy. 187 now. SPY continuing to push to the high. 737 almost in the money now. 201 ask on those contracts.
HSCS hit a high of 375. Came back in, but new highs in the regular session. Zeta is now down, testing the 65 EMA again, looking like it could lose it.
SPY continuing to trade up. I'm sorry, I'm just going to keep watching this because this was a perfect directional move called live right there. I'll let you know as soon as we get the sell signal on this. 215, 221 ask now on those contracts from 148.
Looks like you have resistance coming up at 738 in the SPY.
I'll tell you what, if this thing goes all the way to 738, that's going to be a banger right there. Wow is right. SPY, next level, G-Man, thank you. The concussion wears off quickly for G-Man. He heals like Wolverine. Let's go. Next level here, 737.47 on the SPY. We're currently at 737 right now. 227 ask on the contracts.
You guys are like sounding like you're going to get really excited to hit 737. I'm casually just looking at it going, oh, my goodness.
Well, I will say over the past couple of weeks here, I've really been impressed to watch G-Man. There's your sell signal right there. Nice. It looks like that came 215. That trade 148 to 215 on those contracts. The signal itself was a trim, not an all out. I'll be honest though, with some of these 0 DTEs, unless you have a big position, I often just cash them out when I see the sell signals there. But you just got one. I'll let you know if we get another. Those contracts right at 2.
I haven't looked at Micron, but yeah, that is a pretty good
another push higher here. Sorry to interrupt. 13, 222. The ask on those contracts. We're looking like we're going to set some new highs here on the SPY. We're getting another wick up here. I did not get a signal, but the wick kind of just infers to me that we might be running out of juice here right at 737.
Yeah. So anyway, with Micron, I think this is exactly what needed to happen. We were talking about it yesterday. Price was very extended. It was almost 25% up and away from the moving average, a 20-day SMA. I think we needed a mean reversion. I was expecting this to perhaps happen after or during the earnings, but now the earnings could be completely different reaction, because all I wanted to see was some kind of corrective move. This is it.
And we actually just talked with, remember, one of the things I was saying here this morning with Charlie is that this is great that we're actually seeing it lower ahead of earnings. So, Steve, to your comment here, is there any reason why it's selling? Well, it's been on a huge run, and it is, in fact, taking a breather here. The $64,000 question is whether or not that's going to be good enough for a potential earnings buy. Lions out here calling $1,400 for Micron post-earnings. SPY does feel like it's getting a little heavy up here. Still have not got another sell indicator or a sell signal yet. I'll let you know if it comes. Definitely slowing down here.
Everybody's watching the World Cup.
I don't think it's started yet.
No, then they're pre-partying.
Let me tell you something. It looks like the party has never really ended since the World Cup kicked off this year. If you watch any of the videos of people having fun attending these things, I got good news for you. The Tartan Army made it to Florida, and they saw alligators for the first time. Said I felt like they were in Jurassic Park. I love another sell signal right there. There you go on the SPY. That sell signal came at 220 ask. That is 142 to 215 and 220 on the sells on the 0 DTEs. Bang, bang, bang. I'll keep you posted if we get any more. SPY's actually continuing higher here. And Micron looking like it might test 1100 to the upside here. ATLN, did we have a halt up, Wiss? Halted to the upside, 119 here. And HSCS just pulled from that resistance area. 375 was your high print. Another sell signal on the SPY here on that bounce. I just saw a picture scroll by on Twitter of Kim Kardashian holding a Louis Vuitton soccer ball. Now I need something else to distract me. Buffalo by Bicycle says, I'll be holding my Micron with diamond hands. I don't want to realize that kind of gain and pay tax on it.
You just got to trim. You're going to have to realize those gains at some point, whether in the future.
Thoughts on HQ from Kathy. HQ. Horizon Quantum. Now, this is not one of the ones mentioned. I actually don't know off the top of my head what this one does. This looks like a great chart, though, Kath.
Sounds like a thing between the thing.
Let me see if I can discern what this does. SPY starting to pull back. I tell you what, man, those signals today, those were so good. There's the all-out signal finally, by the way, on the SPY. Oh my gosh, that was awesome. Horizon Quantum is building software infrastructure to make quantum computers accessible to commercial enterprise and hardware providers, bridging the gap between hardware and applications.
In between the thing.
Captain Cloudy, all out of calls. Let's go. Lion, reasonable people tend to disagree. I don't see God's hand within miles of the Micron earnings.
If God owned a stock, you think it would be Micron? I don't know. What do I think about Rigetti? I don't know. I've always said it's a real company when a lot of people thought it was a scam, but I don't think that they
I
really
was
are
one
the
of those.
leader.
I admit it.
I don't think they're the leader on the quantum side. I need more convincing from them, to be honest. I think there's better quantum plays. Not that this isn't a great trade. I mean, I traded the hell out of RGTZ, and that was fantastic, but that was to the downside. It's not so much going to the downside these days.
Joe says Micron should hire Diego Maradona as a spokesperson. I love the Hand of God World Cup tie-in to Micron there, Joe. I think that was very well done. I might have been the only one that got that, but well done to you.
Webcoin, it was the 8th day.
Oh, we're having too much fun here this morning.
All right, well, kind of just going sideways here in a lot of names. It's kind of consolidating. It's a back and forth. Anything that you're seeing that's kind of gone up and away? I mean, looking at Bird, one of the ones we traded yesterday, that's been whipping around, but now we're moving up towards the 200 EMA on the 5-minute, which is coming up to a resistance area around 565. Maybe there's something there. I mean, I'm just looking for anything at this point. It's really slowed down.
Yeah,
I don't want to force anything either.
I'll be honest, it has slowed down. The best trade of the day here was that SPY 0 DTE, absolute banger. I am seeing MOD. This is Modine Manufacturing. This is a pretty big call buy here. They bought the 290 calls that expire in July, bought 200 of them, paid nearly $500,000 for that trade. MOD. That is $10, $11 out of the money from where it's currently priced at.
Powertrain cooling products. So radiators and
13, I don't know if you remember, but like right before the big data center expansion craze, we had a gentleman join Happy Hour and suggest we take a look at this. And we both kind of were like, hey, we've never looked at this stock before. Thanks for bringing this to the group. I think it was like $80 back then. It is 290 right now. By the way, IBM dip and rip, Big B's. That is absolutely right. Are you in calls for this? Okay, so it needs to break the high of the pre-market. So let me set up a hypothetical here. Are you looking at maybe short-term 270 calls if it breaks this pre-market high, 266? Big B's, let me know if I'm even close there. Andas, highs. Get back above 9. Get back above that 200. Give me a dip and recapture of the 200.
So Modine has a $4 billion cooling systems agreement for a long-term cooling capacity agreement that goes through 2029. And they are big into the data center cooling, like you were saying. Look at this chart here, because this might still be able to go higher.
Big B's, I'm looking at the IBM calls that expire this week. Looks like those 280 calls, 156 by 174. So if we break this pre-market high, you're probably going to be looking at what, 180 on those calls? 190? IBM calls on the unusual option scanner. That's not terribly big.
Looks like quantum's heading higher.
INFQ looking like it's going to test 16 here. Yep, but I'd get the 270s. Okay, so you're looking at the 270 calls. Those are 365 by 385 right now.
Yeah, I think there could be some more room to go here with Modine. but that kind of hinges on a lot of information that we're seeing about pushback from data centers. So there may be some limits.
SPY is trucking higher here. I actually did get 2 more buy signals here. This is in the trade 2 window. SPY new intraday highs here. Good load. Good load. We want to put up SPY. Nikhil, did you get a buy on the SPY? Yes, I got 2 more here, not in it though. This one, this is on the most recent push higher here. I got that. So if I go to a 1 minute, you'll be able to see it a little bit better.
It's like Bionic might even go to 62.
They were right in here. The trade window 2 buy signals, Nikhil, came in right in here. So this is a separate trade from the first one, although if you held on to the first one for some reason, that's still cooking.
Inflection is going to have, it looks like they have a small gap to fill. Let's double check this. If you look on the daily chart, there is a gap from the 4th to the 5th. It looks like there's going to be a little bit of a gap fill there. Yeah. We're coming up to fill that now. So we could end up seeing 17 pretty soon here.
INFQ, that was really good time. Chris, did you hit that? Oarsman, did you hit that? That was really, really good timing. Ondas 890 still battling with 9 there. And then Wellness Matters mentioning Oklo. I think someone else mentioned a nuke name here this morning. I don't think I went to it yet, though. By the way, I just got a sell signal on that second buy here in the trade 2 window for the 0 DTE calls. Sell signal right up there. That came at 264. Here's your Oklo move. Man, Oklo basically back to where it was yesterday when it opened. We covered all of that pre-market dip here today. 62 looks to be the spot on Oklo. 100% gain on the spreads and INFQ, Chris. That's register ring worthy. Let's go.
All right.
Folks, it sounds like we're having a good day here today. And I'll tell you what, man, these days where we have red arrows in the morning, the relative strength, the being able to pick out relative strength, I don't know if it's just me, but I feel like it is much easier when we have weak pre-markets like this. For me, when it's green in the pre-market and everything just runs out of the open, way harder to buy stuff.
Mover from yesterday, SAGT Saget. This is up at 135. It's gone a little bit of a run here. Not a whole lot, but just cycling through these. Just noticed this was trading up again. HSCS, this is trying to push higher as well. This is a mover from today.
This is holding its VWAP and trying to push higher too. It came right back into $3, held it, and is trying to move higher.
Yeah, it's trying to get up there.
You got MU above 1100. We had IBM testing those pre-market highs that Big Ab's talked about for the trade there. Well, there are things going on today. This is I know this is just anecdotal, but I feel like today has been more active or better than yesterday. Gap down's way easier than gap ups. Jay, I am so glad I'm not alone in that. I completely feel that way. I seem to do better when that's the case.
I know we looked at LAES earlier, right?
Yes, LAES. Eric was asking about levels on that one.
So LASE is another one that's also going today. And this is in photonics, which we are also talking about today. All right. Looks like getting into some more consolidation. Zeta looks like this is trying to push higher. Watch for a move over 20. We also have resistance at 2050.
SpaceX re-challenging those pre-market highs. Looks like 147.5 was the level that it held. And that ZETA just moved through its VWAP 13. Ryan, the market is recovering. Indeed, it is. And I actually just got 2 more buy signals here on the 0 DTE. Not going to take it, though. Boy, might we get a red to green move? SPY only down 0.85%. Hi, kitty. Microsoft is setting up for a big move higher. Let's take a peek. So, Chris, I think this is what you're thinking of, right? Break this impulse candle here. Let's call it 376.
380 is a tough spot. Going to need to see some closes above that. I think that's the big resistance to watch for now. Since we lost that level, that's been the tough area to recapture was 380. This is very oversold, though. Well, I mean, not very, but sits down there.
QBTS call buys on the unusual option scanner. mRNA call buys. Actually, QBTS repeat call buys. Someone was mentioning mRNA here today. That did rip out of the gate, found resistance right at 63. I am seeing the 63 calls for July getting bought there.
Looks like a lot of things are kind of coming in at the moment. Bold is trying to take another, make another move here. We'll see if it can get going. Still not able to get past this trend line.
Got a sell signal on the 0 DTE indicator. That was very short-lived on that recent trade. That is an all-out signal, by the way. Chewy up 2.5%. That thing's been getting blasted recently. NBIS is a beast. I haven't looked at that at all here today. Sorry about that. Just shy of 300 there on NBIS.
Yeah,
oh, man, give me back my shares from 17.5, for heaven's sake.
If you could just get a little bit more expansion of volume in BOLD, could see a nice move through this trend line, but volume is kind of low on a lot of these movers right now.
So BOLD, so this broke the bottom end of the trend line that we had.
Yeah.
But it very quickly found support from that pre-market low that it found support at earlier, about 225, let's call it. So are we thinking if we recapture any of these lines or the VWAP, we might be on here?
I mean, maybe a recapture. I think what could happen next is that we back test that that trend line that we just broke out of, and then get rejected and go lower. That's what might happen here, unless we get some kind of bullish influx of volume that completely squeezes out the shorts. I think that trend line could feature some resistance. Take care, line. Hood, let's go, says Ed Edwards. It's Hood dude right now.
Take care of yourself, line. See you tomorrow.
So Hood dropped down to underneath the 200 EMA and is finding support, trying to fill the gap, the overnight gap from the open.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on the Getty and the OpenAI partnership? So to me, it felt like a fluffy name drop in the PR. I don't understand the mechanism. The news there was that the Getty image library was going to be added to the OpenAI database so that it could be used in some of the answers. What does that actually mean for the company? I don't know.
Yeah, I think this probably ends up being better for OpenAI than Getty. I mean, Getty's just got a bunch of content, and now OpenAI has access to it to train their models on. So it's like I view this as, you know, OpenAI getting their next semester's school books. You know, that's the way I look at it. Getty just got a bunch of school texts, and it's going to do some schoolwork.
TD Cowen named Chewy as its top small to mid cap stock pick for 2026. There are a lot of folks in here. I think 13 and I included. We both really want Chewy to work, but man, it's been tough.
It has been tough. It's been out of favor, but I still have a position. I think that it's going to be all right. Just got to be patient. And remember, I was telling, talking a lot about how there's this a much longer time horizon. It could be years to, for me to get this to where it wants to go, and that's fine. That's part of the plan. But no, it's just been really just providing discount opportunities.
Peter asking about your thoughts on Amazon. Well, so that was, let me actually go to the bigger chart there, because we talked about this yesterday and it was a chart play. I believe it was on the 200, but let me pull it up and make sure I'm not confusing this with another ticker. Yep. So we bounced off the 200, Peter. Now, the interesting thing is that Prime Day starts today. So you want to call this the Black Friday of the summer? Okay. Generally speaking, we should hear numbers coming out of this if things are good. So that's something else to kind of keep in mind here. The chart says we're bouncing off the 200-day. What's actually going on is that the 4-day Prime Day sale starts today. One of the things to watch for here for a short-term trade, are they reporting good, positive, above expectation numbers on Amazon? If so, I think that short-term trade's probably going to work out. Long-term, love this. Love the web services, use Amazon myself, have not even thought about not paying for Prime for the last decade. Definitely love Amazon long-term.
And Amazon, it's nice to see the 200-day SMA provide support. On the weekly, you have the 20 and the 50-week SMAs providing support. These still, they don't look like they're in recovery yet. They might be. But for me, I'm looking at this weekly chart, I'd like to see at minimum a recapture of 240. I'd feel a lot more comfortable a recapture of 250. If we don't get that, then I think there's still a chance we see 225.
So I had something on my mind and just left.
Buffalo by Bicycle. The thing that I like about Chewy that actually does add value is the fact that they've recently acquired a pet healthcare company that's going to add to their run rate. You can't really get what they're offering on Amazon in that sense. I think because they're providing an additional service in addition to their products. I think that's going to really help their business in the long run. I think that's the big thing I like the most about it.
And I would agree with Buffalo's second comment here about the ease of returns. I have no qualms about ordering something that I am not familiar with, sight unseen from Amazon, because I know I'm going to be able to return that. And it is very, very easy. In fact, when I bought my blower for car detailing, they sent me one that was clearly open and used. It was all scuffed up and it didn't work. And I returned it. The same day that I returned it, they shipped out the new one. The next day, I dropped off the return at Whole Foods, which accepts returns. And when I got home, the new one was there. So, I mean, technically, you can say that I got the new one before I returned the old one. I mean, it was so fast. And I agree about the ease of returns being a huge positive there. That being said, I've never had a problem with Chewy returns. In fact, I've ordered food that had ingredients that my cat doesn't like, And when I tried to fill out a return, they told me, we'll credit you, no problem. Take the food to a local shelter. They've done that twice. And to me, if you don't want the product back and instead you want that product to feed other animals that need it, you're not going to get. I can only think positively about that. I'm definitely biased in that. Trey Blue. Looks like nice little quick trade there to the upside. Grats. Good day here today, folks. Smash up the like for the good day here and also for 13.
Slow, but watching the portfolio grow.
That rhymes too, so well done. Charlie was great this morning. I'll tell you what, Charlie is, congrats on his new house. He is excellent every time he comes here. Chewy's strength is customer service, no doubt about it.
So Bold got that rejection, trying to re-enter that triangle. This might be where we start to see the breakdown, because this is what I was watching for. Could we squeeze and push out those shorts to get, back up here and nullify that, the fact that it exited the triangle to the downside? Remember, I was saying earlier, usually when we get our direction of break out or break down from the inside of the triangle, that's usually the direction it heads. So we should be seeing some downside here for if this price cannot get back in that channel or that triangle.
Oh, yeah, Chris. Charlie Moon was great, but we also want to see Charles Gross on the show. I will ask him, Chris, but this is what I'll say. He is so busy with Squawk, and he is so good at that I actually feel like I'm doing a disservice to him and our community by pulling him away for something that he is just absolutely great at. Albert saying the vibe flipped from bear to bull on SpaceX. By the way, 13, on this Bold, I basically just extended the downtrend line out a little bit, and lo and behold, stock price still reacting to that. As far as SPCX, I'm assuming you made the typo there, Albert, so I'll just correct it here. Here's what it looks like. Still ran into resistance at that pre-market high. You know what else did that? Big B's. I had asked you what the plan was on IBM, and you said it needed to break the pre-market high. Look what it did. It challenged it, couldn't break it. Keep it on your radar in case it does break. It actually looks like we're trying to bounce right here.
Yeah, and I think it is going to. If you're trading SpaceX and or you're looking to be an investor in it, I think it would do you very well to follow the progress at Starbase and with Starship's test flights. Talk a lot about these because I think they're exciting, but also because I think it's going to unlock the greatest industrial frontier that we've ever had, largely into a widely unregulated space. No pun intended. So I think it's very important what Starship is or what SpaceX is doing, and this is we're just experiencing IPO volatility. We totally anticipated this. This company will be worth a lot more going forward. Let the IPO do its thing, and we still have a lot of shares that are yet to be unlocked. So there's going to be some more volatility in the future. But keep an eye on those Starship flights. I think those are going to be a big indicator of how well this performs.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And 13, I just want to preemptively thank you. I realize I'm also giving you homework by doing this, but that's another story. I want to preemptively thank you for continuing to update us on the space race, frankly, all of the different happenings with the different launches from the different companies. You're an absolute asset. At this point, I've actually stopped looking stuff up. I just text you instead, and I always get a good answer.
No problem. I was going to do it anyway.
Okay, perfect.
Barb said they had one this morning. One of their Falcon 9s, I assume you're talking about, sending some payload from, might even be a different company up there. Usually that's all they're doing right now is sending up those Falcon 9s with somebody else's payload or Starlink satellites.
And by the way, guys, I'm just kind of looking at this now. The initial calls that we talked about buying from this morning in trade window 1, the 0 DTE calls, the entry was 140. And when we were getting the 148, excuse me, and we were getting the sell signals, I was calling them out. It was 215 and like 220 as those sell levels. That same contract is 346 right now. Entry from 148. Now, there's no way, the way I trade these things, I don't see any universe, unless I forgot or got pulled away from my machine, in which I would have held those through all of the different sell signals that we got. But nonetheless, 148 to 340 in a morning here. Just an absolute great move here on the SPY. That was all you needed today.
So they landed a drone on the. So Falcon. There's no Falcon 5. It's Falcon 9 rockets that they're launching. Those have the capability of burning back into through the atmosphere and landing on these drone ships that will then sail the booster rocket back to the starbase. So that's routine. Oh, it's a Starfall demo? Oh, okay. So this is something completely new that happened then. Okay. I'll have to look into that. What's my resource for keeping up with the space industry news? I'll put together a list real quick here and send it to you. It's just a number of different YouTube channels that provide a lot of great information. If there's anything I need to read, they provide that too. Lots of really good information comes out of these to the point where they're telling you different companies that are working with NASA and SpaceX. So they essentially give you a list of different tickers you can go and research yourself. Very, very helpful in finding all these different space plays.
And Marcus here saying Benzinga Pro for everything. I don't know if they go deep into space, but they cover everything. So Marcus, this is kind of blow your mind here. So first of all, we do cover everything, and there's plenty of ways to research a lot of this stuff by originating it in Benzinga Pro. But the other thing that you have to remind is that 13 is a moderator in the happy hour chat room. 13 not only posts ideas throughout the course of the day, as well as some of his research, but he also posts recaps of what we talk about on happy hour. And when we do that, we often cover some of the space stuff. So I just want to alert you to the chat tool in Pro. There's a drop down at the top. Happy hour is one of the rooms. You will often find discussions about space stocks and other stocks to look into directly from the chat, in addition to some of the core news and scanner tools that Pro provides.
I'm doing it one at a time. Unfortunately, it's not letting me, have a whole bunch of these together in one post. But basically, there's NASA space flight. What about it? Everyday astronaut. A couple others I'm going to post here are Marcus House, and then there's one other one, another SpaceX news company. So I'll get those to you in just a tick here.
Appreciate you, 13. Mm-hmm.
I tend to like, going through these folks because, even though everybody on here on YouTube is trying to sell something, these are people that are genuinely interested in the industry and what SpaceX and NASA are doing. So the information they're trying to pass on is pretty genuine. They want to give you the right information because they feel it's like an obligation to the community,
And you know what else, 13, and I'll say this on just kind of a more general note, but I've noticed this from a lot of the videos that you've linked as well as the ones that I surface on my own. Mm-hmm. You can tell when you're watching someone on YouTube if they're passionate about a subject. And when they're passionate about a subject, I find that the content is better. I find that I retain the content better because they're often explaining it in a way that I can connect with more. You can tell quite a bit what's good and what's not just from simply watching some of these things. All right, folks, let's take a look here at the time. We've got 5 minutes until we move over to Anne-Marie. Remember, we have a couple of stocks that you folks asked about that we're going to set up option trades on. 13, would you mind driving the ship here for a minute while I step away for just 1 sec?
All right, what do we want to look at? What do we want to look at while you step away?
I would ask the group that. I have SpaceX up here. I can put whatever you want on the screen. I'm also seeing the unusual option scanner flow by. Gary, didn't you mention APLD earlier today? I don't think we got to it. Oh, come on.
QURE.
You want me to put up QURE?
Sure, let's look at Unicure, see what that's about, where you go.
Okay. I'll be right back. One sec before Anne-Marie.
All right. So yesterday, this company announced they were going to have a public offering of $150 million. It's a biotech company. They raise cash all the time, and they need it. And hey, this is the Netherlands. We just had those folks come through my town. It's fantastic being with them. So the Dutch here need to raise capital for this this company. They are in genetic and devastating diseases. They treat Huntington's, cardiovascular diseases, doing research on different a number of different things. They have a collaboration with Bristol Myers for heart diseases, Hep B, ALS, just a number of different things. So this company is very much involved in a lot of stuff. They do have a tiny bit of revenue, but they certainly lose a lot more than they make. Fortunately, they have a ton of cash. That looks like that could last them based on what I see here with their cash and their investments, their short-term investments. They've got a runway of, like, I would say maybe 8 to 10 quarters, just based on the current cash burn. So don't think they're going to need to raise any more capital beyond this 150 offering here. Let's look at the chart. Now, interestingly, we went up. I'm sorry, hold on. Okay, so that really didn't seem to affect the price action a whole lot. There must be something I'm missing here, because that, I have to probably look at that 150 share $1 million offering, but it seems like something like that would normally pull the stock down. It didn't really go anywhere. Just kind of sitting here with this floating island. Ryan, we have a floating island. And we might see the rest of this gap fill from back in October.
We do. So real quick here, just looking at the actual island setup here, the buy was 44, right? The buy is always on the island when you pull back towards the bottom end of the range. But to your point, we're actually getting the resolution that we hope for out of this trade. Mm-hmm. We want to trade back up to 50. That's very, very clearly the resistance. And if we pop above this, that's when you would actually end up scaling out of this trade. Now, could you front run the 50 break right here? Sure. And this is indeed the island formation that we're looking for.
Look at it. Can you back out some more?
Oh, absolutely, I can.
Keep going, keep going. There you are.
So it's not the perfect one. It's not where we've broke to new highs here, but it's still very good, and it's still following exactly what we look for out of this.
Well, I mean, I think that this is just kind of telling us right now that we have an imminent golden cross. We have this island here that's holding up. And if we get a break over, what, $50, it's looking like we're filling the rest of this gap from October. You see that there? There's this massive gap.
Yeah, right in here. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it looks like this is it's got all these different indicators saying this is going higher. So we'll see if that ends up happening. Like I said, $50 resistance. Next area, maybe 58, maybe 59. But it looks to me like to fill the gap here, we're going to go to 67, 68.
Okay, 13, we are out of time here. It is time for Anne-Marie. Do you have any closing words for the group here on this rather great day? Well,
I think I'm going to step away and enjoy the rest of my day away from the computer. It's very slow, so I think with the lack of movement here, it's probably not going to make for the greatest trade. So there's a lot of other fun stuff you could do. World Cup is going to be on later. Let's watch that. And folks, enjoy watching that if you watch the World Cup. And I'll see you tomorrow. Have fun with Anne-Marie. And take care. Goodbye.
All right. Really good stuff, 13. Take care. We will see you tomorrow. 13 paves the way. for Anne-Marie Band. Let's bring her on. Oops, lost it there. Anne-Marie, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
We're doing pretty good as well. Having a nice little Tuesday here. Like I was saying earlier,
Some great
I seem to do
calls
better when the
today.
market gaps down than when it gaps up.
Yeah, you guys have done a really great job. I feel like 13 is struggling through some kind of chest or cold event, and he's just being a trooper. And if you're out there 13, I realize that, the mom vibe, I'm probably your big sister vibe that goes, hey, take care of yourself. I'm glad to hear you're getting out.
Last week, he was under the weather. We gave him the day off. I've been asking him every day. He says he's all right, but he is indeed no stranger to fighting through things to be out here. So we definitely appreciate that. What do you have for us today?
Well, I've got a bunch of things to look at. We can start with just a broad look at SPY because I think it's a little bit important for us to see what's happening from a big picture perspective. We had a brand new high. I can't really tell whether I'm seeing better with my glasses or without my glasses. That's really horrible. But we had this high that came up in early June, and then we immediately gave it up and made a lower low. So this sort of weird megaphone gives me a little bit of pause in terms of just saying, hey, listen, buy the dip, we're going to be in great shape. Now we hear all that stuff that says, hey, we've never made a top in June ever.
Yeah.
Right?
I shared it yesterday. Yep.
Right? So many of those. And, in the market, we can say you never say never. But statistically speaking, it's not a month that does that. So it could be that we fade and then have another big bounce. And the bounce in July is the one that gives us our real midterm rollover. Who's to say I probably need to close this trade because I'm yapping? Maybe I'll just move the stop down. How's that? Okay. So anyways, what all I want to do in terms of having us taking a look is to realize a couple of things. We're in the middle of a broad formation that is really, it began with a lower high. And so just a little bit of a cautionary, could it be a flag that then sends us back to the upside? Yes. But we had a good gap down. Now, what the gap down did was help all the futures charts fill their gaps between the June and September contracts. And so that got done. They started lifting. Now SPY is going to have to do that to get itself, away. So as long as we stay under 743, it's kind of a litmus test for us. So just keep your eyes on that number. If it gets above it, you'll feel a lot better with the wind being at your back. Okay, so what can we talk about? A couple of different things. We talked about
Accenture.
CBRS. Was that Accenture? Yes.
And CBRS, yep.
CBRS yesterday. So let's go to CBRS. And what we can see is, so I use the doji indicator to see if it helps me build structure on the chart. And so interesting with this doji indicator, there are some stocks that once the doji prints and it settles, the second breakout from that doji event, whether to the up or the down, ends up being something we can trade for a couple of days. And so this one, okay, so it's today after the close.
Yep.
And it looks like it's got legs to the upside, to be sure, especially since it's come in and it's holding a big support structure. So the question might be, well, how do you want to trade that? And the options are not that grand. So you could give it a couple of days/weeks, really the cycles are running so fast now that if you aren't doing anything but staring way downstream, there's the possibility that you get up and be John D. Rockefeller or, the guy from It's a Wonderful Life that, has to throw all his belongings into the bank so people don't lose their houses. So seriously, I think if you're looking for structure, as soon as it moves, you want to take that trade off once it starts getting into the motion. So this is amazing over here. Okay, so what we can look at is we want to see where the walls are. And so there's a wall at 230. That's the big wall. And then 240 and 250. That's 55 cents. If it has a good run, you've got up to $1,000 of gross. And if it doesn't, no harm, no foul. You're out $55. But it's a great asymmetric bet. It's a really, really good asymmetric bet for this one on the bounce off of this floor, because it's really held that level. When it broke the low, it gave us a higher high, and then it came in and gave us another higher low, and now it's come back into the range that is still a lower high, but the floor of support is holding. And as long as that holds, you can take that asymmetric bet and just follow where the chain is so that you can get yourself a good trade. So I really like that one. Let's go to Accenture.
Okay.
So, I have no lost love with Accenture. So many Accenture people have been so smarmy. So, listen, if you're out there listening and you were a prior or current Accenture person, I don't mean you because I don't know you. So I'm just talking about who I knew. So here we are with Accenture. Could this be a bottom? Take a look at this. Look at how, well, not even 3 weeks. We got to go all the way here. And we can see that there's a bottoming formation right here. We absolutely can see it. They came out, just like you said, for earnings, and they said, hey, listen, everybody uses AI. Obviously, they're telling the truth. Maybe people didn't like that. This is a very nice buy zone. Here's the problem. This chart is a dumpster fire, and people were buying it at $160 going, no, this is a good floor. And people were buying it at $175 and going, no, this is a good floor. And those folks are going to puke if we get any kind of bounce. They're going to be, what does our wonderful guy, Mark Petrino,
they call them regretful buyers and regretful sellers.
There it is. And that's exactly what you're going to see in this chart formation, in my mind. This is what I'm seeing. So here is the earnings candle for last week. They're trying to hold the top of it, but any kind of bounce action is very likely to lead to selling pressure. So my thought is, why not set an alert for 155, 156, and then when it gets up into that area, sell it. If you're thinking to yourself, hey, I want to buy the dip, that's perfectly fine, but it's important to find a structure that gives you that. And so far, every time it comes up into old highs or places that look like support, it rolled right over, so I don't feel grand about saying, hey, listen, this is a great position to go long. That being said, if you're a gambler, The stop action really is about $123. And if you're thinking to yourself, all right, well, that's just, $3.50 from where I am right now, maybe I'll do that. Again, I would say, this market is very likely going to give back most of this bounce. This is a short covering rally that we had at the open this morning. There's nothing strategically systemic about the bounce other than it was algorithmic support. At least this is my opinion. So I would say wait until maybe 1 o'clock. See how this one looks at 1 o'clock. If you want to buy it, then the easy thing to do would be to look to see where, oh my word, look at that. Yeah, that's where I would be looking at, right? I would be looking at the 110 puts, maybe the 110, 100 put spread. And I would wait for a bounce before putting that one on. But if you want to go long and you're thinking to yourself, nope, this is it. Again, follow the spreads. 130 to 135 to 140. That's where the volume is. It's 50 cents at this juncture, but it could get a lot cheaper if the market continues to pull in. The big thing for us to watch is, can it hold the VWAP, right? And Accenture is really battling at the VWAP right now, really trying to hold it. It's just very noisy. And the opening candlestick, it's sitting in there after all of the open just sort of stalled out, even as the market has tried to recover very, very nicely. So that's my thought there. Did not mean to throw shade on the Accenture group as a whole. They just drove me a little crazy when I worked with them way back in the day. So
that's quite all right.
Yeah. Okay. The next one, let's look at Caterpillar.
Okay. Hopefully Peter's still out there. I think this is his favorite stock.
Yeah. So Cat was a beast yesterday and really accelerated up into a structural high point, especially if you look at a weekly chart, just really savage. And then with the drawdown, it's come in just like it's supposed to. So the question is, where is Caterpillar likely to come into? I'm going to say it's probably going to be up at the 900 area, the top of the earnings candle for the week. But let's go to a daily and then look at this. Oh, it's the same thing. That's great. That's great. The daily and the weekly candlestick formations look very similar in terms of structure. And so does this revert to the mean? I think so, but it is going to continue to be buying as we see picks and shovels really are getting to be bought more, right? People are always talking about the picks and shovels. And so meaning the things that are going to make the thing behind the thing work, right? And so that if that's AI, then, that's what it is. So what is my thought? My thought is that it comes back to 950. And at that 950 zone, it gives us a chance to create a buying opportunity. Here's the thing. If it doesn't hold 950 easily, that's why this indicator works for me. Easily, it comes back to the bottom of the earnings candle. And so that's all the way down at 850. So watch your risk if you're thinking about going long to the upside. And if you're going short, make sure that you find something that tells you a short is a good idea. And the only thing that tells us a short is a fair idea is maybe the 30-minute chart, and that just gave us a signal to tell us that there was support down here. And so here is the structural motion for support right down here at this old break. And so, you could look at this and say, all right, I need to see how it pops, because notice it bounced $10, $12, $13 off of that low and then gave it all back. Still looks a little bearish to me, but they are trying to hold this ledge. If they lose it, 950 is our framework. So from a Caterpillar perspective, if you are looking for a place to buy it, I say, please hold the phone, hang on. There's plenty of time for Caterpillar to come in. The 50 on that simple moving average, it's got tremendous amount of heavy congestion. Also, the 50% range of the candle, there's a lot that tells us that between 880 and 850 might be something to look at. So let's take a look at that one. Let's see if there is, wow, there's no action there. There's one at 3, there's 935. The thing about it is if you take a butterfly and the volume is thin, you're going to have to leg out of it.
Yeah.
If it's doing what you want it to do, you're going to have to get out of the side that's not working and either roll it, or you get out of the side that's working and you cross your fingers and hope the part that's not working doesn't go upside down. And I would never recommend option 2. I would just roll what's not working and then leave what's working wide open. And so
I've actually had to do that on some of these plays. I know we had someone in here asking the other day, how do I get out of this? It just goes past my price. It doesn't fill the order. I've been there too. That's actually, in my opinion, Anne-Marie, at least from how I've been following on some of these trades, that's my biggest complaint with the butterflies.
Yes.
Is that sometimes they're very difficult.
You have to split them apart. And the big thing is you've got to see that it's got big volume and big open interest, or you're at the marketplace selling apples and nobody's around, which is essentially what it ends up being. So, yeah. All right.
I have a really quick question.
Sure.
Caterpillar, when you look at this, do you ever also kind of compare it to something like John Deere, for example? Do you ever look at the two?
I don't compare them, but I have looked at them, and I'm glad my memory. I did remember that Caterpillar was just knocking the socks off of Deere, and I just don't know why.
I think I have something here.
Give it.
There is something here called the right to repair. Are you familiar with this?
Oh my gosh.
John Deere is horrific at it. And in fact, I believe there are multiple lawsuits suing them for the inability to repair the products. Now, Caterpillar is not the 180-degree opposite. Caterpillar really forces you to use their parts, their specialty tools in order to take things off, but they allow farmers and customers to repair these items themselves instead of forcing them to have them be done by the company. And whenever I talk to anybody that uses this equipment, they're never somebody that can't do some of these repairs themselves.
Absolutely.
100% of the customer base that I talk to are people that are mechanically inclined. And if it comes down to, well, I can repair this one versus I'm going to have to pay extra to have somebody do this, that's easy. I am wondering if that is showing up in the charts here and the divergence in these two stocks.
That is a very, very thoughtful, thought-provoking commentary. I guess what we would see is, where would we see that in the actual numbers? Would we see it in price to earnings? Would we see it in new equipment sales? Would we see it in, because it's going to filter in, or do you believe this is just a reputational hit and people are like, yeah, I know all the news about Deere. I'm just not buying it. What do
You
you
see
think?
that? You see that recent curl up on that chart there on the left where it hit the high and then it came kind of back in and traded
Yes.
sideways? I think what happened here is when they really started to take an aggressive stance, the people that are locked into Deere or didn't have a choice or didn't have enough time to think about it bought new equipment instead of repairing the old equipment. And they had positive earnings, and then it slowed down. Because I think if you're in this business or if you require this equipment, you're going to think long and hard about which piece of equipment you're going to buy
Exactly.
if you can't repair it. And so part of me, I can see both sides of it, right? Like if you're gonna force customers to buy new equipment, you're gonna have more revenue, right? Because you're buying new equipment instead of repairing old equipment. But over time, that's going to get tiresome, and your sales might dip from that. I'm again just hypothesis, but
yeah, that's very thought provoking. I think there's certainly something going on there that makes them just.
Trey, here's another thing from Trey in the chat here. Cat, best nat gas generators for data centers. DE has none.
Oh,
If there's a data center angle to this too, I would not write that off at all. That's almost certainly a part.
yeah. Well, Cat won so many of those contracts to build data centers.
Yep.
That's what had them shooting up in the first place about 2 quarters ago, right?
Yep.
Okay. What else would be like? How much time we got? Okay. Yeah. Time for 2 more.
Yep.
We, did you have one more for me?
I talked about Cerberus yesterday. I talked about Accenture today, and there IBM was the other one. IBM.
Yes. Well, look at this. I mean, has this been a roller coaster, right? Look at that movement. I mean, that is just wow. Okay, so the bottom line is it went to the top of the congested area and then went all the way down to the bottom of the congested area. So very likely this is going to grind its way up. So you've got to think about this as a trader, thinking, all right, I am moving into a choppy summer, potentially. It could run all the way up, but recent past in the early spring, late winter, it was very choppy, and then it turned around and ran back up. So here's the thing. IBM's a little nationalized now, if we want to talk about it that way. And so it's got a natural floor on it, doesn't mean that it won't dip. So your thought should be, let me look further out and make this something that can give me sort of an investment grade return. And so we expect it to go back to the top of the range, right? If it fades because, we're having ourselves some kind of sad party over the summer, then, there's a fair bit of room for it to fade, but it's still really solid at around the 200 mark. And so to me, this looks exceptional for a hold that over the long haul will run to the north. And so let's do that. Now, some of us, most of us here are, I want to get in and get out. I took something for a couple of days. It looks great, but blah, 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 blah. My thought is the following. Look at what just happened. We were holding support and then we collapsed under it. And now we held new support and we went up into resistance. That may or may not hold. In terms of the floor, momentum says it's not got a shot. It's going to fade. And so if you're thinking to yourself, well, if I've got a short-term fade on it, how can I trade that? Because the whole market feels like it's pulling a little bit. Then you can look at something like, all right, I'm going to take something to July the 9th, and then I'm going to look and see where the majority are sitting. 245, where is that? I forgot. Yes, 245. I didn't forget. Okay, so we've got 245, right? And 240. That's 72 cents. $72 for a $500 upside. So you're going to get about 420 on the upside if it comes in to that fade spot. My thought is that it very easily could. We could just lose a bid just because. Now, if you're thinking to yourself, well, I think it's going to run, then look at how many other people think it's going to run. There's way more call action on this side than there is put action. And so you might say, all right, well, if I buy the 270, 280 spread, it's going to cost me 250 or so. Now, maybe you wait until the end of the day. It might cost you 210. It might cost you 180. And then you'll have yourself a bounce from that space. Otherwise, you can do the butterfly. And remember, with the butterfly, you could face some type of, splitting that position apart and moving to the next space.
Okay. All right. Good stuff there. IBM. Did you have another one? The chat is suggesting Hood, but if you have one, let's do it.
We can do Hood.
Okay.
I wrote down a bunch of them. Well,
thank gosh you're coming back on Friday.
Yes, there we go. That list that I sent you, that little image thing, you got to check it out. It's very interesting. Very, very. Okay, so let's think about Hood. It did a great job holding this ledge up here. I had hoped for fade that would give us a buy, and it did not come into that 89 area. It's continually held that zone. Now, right now, if we take a look at the daily structure, it's well expanded off of its uptrend. These Fibonacci's, these extensions are, hey, this is how a great chart would look. So we would have to go to the weekly to see where the edges are. And it's, pretty close to the top edge right there at 112. What is my thought? Well, I've got a flat to upward 50 simple moving average, and I've got a flat to upward, though it is support, a 10 simple moving average, and I got pretty solid momentum. So my pullbacks should be buy zones. What do you want to do here? Well, I'd wait for the pullback, right? The pullback action is going to give you the better bet, but it's very likely, listen, we are very likely to give this entire move that we've seen this morning back. And so wait until the end of the day and then pick your poison. And if you're saying, hey, listen, I want to go long, you could say, hey, I want to go short right now. And if you're saying, hey, listen, I just want, a couple of days, then you could go down to these ledges and here's the biggest one. Here's the 95 for $1.43. You could go to the 95.90 and 71 cents. You could take it now, or you could wait until it gets to the bottom and follow everybody else around. And they are, 105 to 110. This could easily be half this price by the end of the day. So it could be $1 for $400 on the upside. And so just wait for the cheap. Realize we are in a very high volatility pattern right now. We've got the VIX expired. And so we've got a lot of flows that have no pinnings. And so they're going to ping pong. It'll be like a game of pong with price action. This is a very noisy pact. It's probably going to be about 3 weeks long, but prepare for noise.
Okay. Well, you know what? We've been preparing for noise and volatility for what feels like the past couple of months, so it shouldn't be a departure from what we're used to here.
Yeah.
So really good stuff here, Anne-Marie. Thanks again. I know we didn't catch you on Friday because of the market holiday, but we're going to have you back this Friday.
Yes, sir.
And then next Friday is closed for observance of 4th of July. Which
I'm going to go out and burn my fingers off on something, I'm sure. Either a grill or some sparklers.
Okay. Okay. You're not going to blow your fingers off with explosives. No. Okay. No. Got it.
No.
Well, we'll take that. All right. Anne-Marie, really good stuff here today. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you on Friday.
Thank you. Bye.
That is Anne-Marie Band. And that concludes our show here for today. Really good stuff, top to bottom here. Really just kind of a good day from top to bottom. So rest up, enjoy the World Cup, and get ready to do it again tomorrow. Stay green, stay safe, stay focused. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, folks.